If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
The poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galina. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
Right now in Ukraine, elderly Jews are trapped in unbearable poverty. If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help rush a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now.
You know, as we just mentioned, the second quarter GDP numbers, 3%.
Right.
This is ahead of the EU investments and Japan and all the other investments that President Trump has been able to procure for the benefit of the American worker. So this is actually going to be much higher than 3%, I think.
Right, and it's also stripping out a lot of that government spending, that wasteful spending that was cut with DOGE, and we'll see how the future numbers look, because initially our GDP was spent a lot on unnecessary government programs.
But to that point, you know, government spending is a part of the GDP formula. So many experts thought that it was actually going to decline.
Yeah.
Because of less government spending, but
even more
given President Trump's trade deal.
Welcome home to the Dove TV, encouraging and informative. More at thedove.us.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mr. Bilden's neighborhood.
Oh, no. What a way to start the day.
Will you be my friend? Will you be mine?
Won't you be my neighbor? Good morning.
So, welcome to Mr. Bilden's neighborhood, where everything is just happy.
Yeah.
We're just having a nice time.
Yeah, why not?
And the train will come by in just a minute. The little choo-choo.
Because it's hump days.
It's hump day.
Boys and girls, can you say hump day?
Can you say hump day?
Oh, no.
Good morning to you.
This is the wrong foot.
Welcome to Morning Down the Dove, where just about anything goes, and we just proved it.
Yes, indeed.
All right, good morning to you. Well, the rocking and rolling on the West Coast, and we have a little bit of an update. They say it's one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded.
Right.
8.8 earthquake off the coast of Russia, and, you know, starting the tsunami warnings to go off all up and down the Pacific Northwest coast, Hawaii, Alaska, and some of it's, you know, kind of fading a little bit. Some of those reports have gone down to an alert, but the point being is, I was looking at some of the seismographic things, and it looks interesting how they can predict the current of the ocean and where the tsunami is going to go.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yes, we have some pictures of that a little bit later on, but it's happening out there, or at least it did happen. And the fallout from that is pretty significant. But 8.8, that's one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded.
Yeah.
And that's a biggie. So more on that coming up. Anyways, good morning to you. Temperature-wise, we're starting to...
Just inching down, yeah.
We'll start dropping a few degrees each day as we head towards the weekend, which is really very pleasant seasonal weather. So good morning. What's up, man?
Well, this is very appropriate, very coincidental, and especially after a earthquake causing a tsunami, National Climb a Mountain Day. Get to higher ground.
You may want to go up. Yeah.
Yes, there are some people that are doing that or have done that already. Now, this is actually a message about committing yourself to accomplishing your goals. There are a lot of mountains in front of us. Sometimes they seem insurmountable, but you can do it. Just keep your nose to the grindstone, keep going. And if you want to take it literally, climb a mountain, we got a great one right in our backyard. It's called Mount McLaughlin or Mount Pitt, whichever one you like to call it.
And Table Rock.
And Table Rock, yeah, and even Roxanne.
Yeah, you can climb all those.
Mount Ashland.
Mount Ashland.
There's a lot of places to climb, and one day, maybe soon, maybe not, I'm going to be doing the same. Here we go. All right. Enjoy your climb. It's also National Whistleblower Day.
Oh, really?
How about that? National Whistleblowers Day on July 30th commemorates the day our founding fathers recognized the need to protect those who report corruption when they see it. The day reminds us to honor and support the people who speak about fraud, abuse, or waste. And I have found in our current political climate, they are embraced or rejected based on their politics.
Yeah,
isn't that the case?
On their stripes. Yeah.
Absolutely. So anyway, it's an interesting day. National Father-in-Law Day.
Oh.
Yes, during this day you celebrate the father-in-law in your life. So you know, I got 3 in-law children, and hopefully they think this is a good day. Moving on.
All right.
And give them some cheesecake, too. It's National Cheesecake Day.
Oh, okay.
What can be wrong with cheesecake?
Nothing. Apricot cheesecake that people make.
Yeah, obviously cheesecake texture is nothing like cake. It's kind of creamy, thick. And that comes from the soft cheese used as the main ingredient. And depending on your recipe, it's either cream cheese, which I think is the most common, or we have mentioned this before, cottage cheese is sometimes used. When the cheese is mixed with sugar, eggs, and other ingredients, the batter is added to a crust. And the earliest attested mention of a cheesecake is by Greek physician Egimus, who wrote in a book on the art of making cheesecakes, and they used to give it to the Greek athletes.
Really?
Yes, they thought it was really good for them, and, you know, I think they were right.
Well, cheesecake is just one of those things you can't have just one bite.
That's the truth, yes. And there are many different versions of it. You know, we're looking at chocolate cheesecake there. I just like a straight-up cheesecake with some, like, strawberries on top. Look at that one. Or raspberries or blueberries.
Yeah.
Oh, a berry-topped cheesecake is hard to beat.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know, you've talked about this before. Sending messages to your heart or to your head. Some people digest things differently, and we know that in politics, sometimes these approaches are taken. Some sides try to get to your head to make you reason, and others to your heart to make you feel. Well, if you're talking to a shrimp, it's a lot easier, because did you know that a shrimp's heart is in its head?
Really?
No kidding. Yeah, their hearts are literally in their head. Specifically, it is found in the thorax, just behind the head, but they are covered in the same shell segment, and in fact, there are other organs in their head as well. I was talking to Alice this morning about this video that I sent her. I told her, yeah, you know, shrimp heart is in their head. She goes, we eat them?
Yeah.
Do you eat them?
No, you don't eat the head.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we shuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, that's true.
Well, anyway, really, heart's in the head. Really.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, it's interesting how God constructed us. You know how the similarities and the differences, certainly for humans, we can't have that confusion. We have no heart in our head.
No. So here's a guy between his head and his heart is 18 inches.
A look at our weather from Grange Co-op. Today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, mostly sunny skies with daytime high temperatures in the upper 80s for Vancouver and Portland and near 92 for Wilsonville and McMinnville with a light and variable wind. Continuing with mostly sunny skies as we move down the Willamette Valley with high temperatures in the low 90s for Salem and Albany, near 89 in Corvallis and 90 in Eugene with a light northwest wind. Mostly sunny across central Oregon, then a chance of thunderstorms with a fire weather watch and highs near 94 in Prineville and mid to upper 80s for Bend and Sun River. Sunny and hot again in Boise, Idaho with a daytime high near 98. Along the Oregon coast, patchy fog, then sunny in mid-70s in Coos Bay, sunny in upper 60s in Port Orford, patchy fog in Brookings, then mostly sunny in mid-50s, and mostly sunny near 62 in Crescent City. Isolated showers and possibly thunderstorms across central Oregon with a fire weather watch in effect this afternoon and daytime highs near 96 in Grants Pass and Medford, low 90s in Ashland and near 88 in Klamath Falls. Into northern California, scattered showers and possibly thunderstorms and low 90s in Wairika, sunny skies in Redding with a high near 97, Chico near 93, and Sacramento with a high in the upper 80s. In the Bay Area, mostly cloudy, then becoming sunny with highs near 80 in Santa Rosa and 77 in Napa. Partly sunny in San Francisco with a high in the mid-60s. And today in San Jose, becoming sunny with a high near 79. It's a look at your Wednesday weather from Grange Co-op.
All right, good morning to you. We got a little bit of marine air over the top of us. Let's see how that all mixes in. The sun's not quite fully up yet as the days continue to get a little shorter. But a nice picture of our backyard.
So which direction are we looking at? What's the number?
Put that back up.
What's the coordinate?
That's about 280. I don't think I'm wrong either.
I love it. All right. This lesson keeps being learned day by day. All right. So do you know what you believe in, and are you willing to take a stand for it? Well, here's Dr. David Jeremiah with a great message.
What he did, the Bible says, was he went home, he knelt down on his knees, he did it 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God. Listen to the last phrase, as was his custom to do. When the king said he couldn't pray to his God, Daniel said, I'm sorry, and he went home and prayed to his God. Stand-up people are often promoted. They're always persecuted. And they're usually very persistent in what they do. I want you to notice that what Daniel did when he found out what the deal was this. He didn't stand down. That would have been cowardice. He didn't stand aside. That would have been compromise. He really didn't even stand against. He didn't rail against the king. What did he do? He stood up. He stood up for his courage and his conviction, and that's what I believe God is calling us to do. We can stand up for what we believe. We can stand up and be counted, and if we just do what we should do, we should be standing up all the time. Amen?
Amen. Mm-hmm. Stand up and be counted. All right, good stuff all the way around. All right, good morning to you. Top stories is certainly the big earthquake off the eastern coast of Russia late yesterday afternoon, early evening. 8.8 magnitude, one of the largest ever recorded, and certainly the strongest earthquake in more than 14 years. It did trigger tsunami warnings for Hawaii, Northern California, parts of Oregon, Alaska. And as far as the Oregon coast is concerned, those warnings were for between, I think, 11 last night to 2 a.m. this morning. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, there's still some warnings up in, let's see here, down in Southern California. In Hawaii, you're seeing some little high waves there in Hawaii. This is a biggie. We don't know the damage yet of any of this. We'll have to wait and see what that actually says and it comes out to be. I did see some reports where the buildings were really rocking and rolling. One scene was an interesting one, was in the middle of a surgery room.
Oh, gosh.
And the physicians literally laid themselves over the patient that they were operating on while the whole room was just kind of rocking and rolling.
Man.
So there are some tsunamis, there are some high water. Apparently Nothing big, but yes, some flooding. But doesn't seem to be a whole lot of damage. But we'll see. But this is a big one. And large waves could be seen lapping on parts of the shore of Oregon last night and Washington. That was around between 11:30 last night to about 2 o'clock this morning. So we don't have any reports coming in from Oregon of any major damage other than the waves did rise a little bit. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what the other thing I was looking at was where they were looking at the maps, and when the earthquake hits and it creates this down and up thing for the tsunami to create, it goes out and then hits the various currents of the ocean. And then it kind of goes this way.
Interesting, yeah.
So anyway, the other big story, we actually talked about this with one of our guests yesterday. Well, it happened. The EPA chief, Lee Zeldin, rescinded what they call, quote, the holy grail of the climate change religion that led to $1 trillion in regulations. It's called the Obama-era endangerment finding. And apparently this was the ruling that all of the climate change lovers love, because it basically brought billions of dollars of restrictions on everything. It has been rescinded. I don't know all of the things that are in it, but this is the beginning of the unwinding of the whole climate change thing, and this is big. This is really, really big. The problem that the global warming people, excuse me, climate change people have, they changed the name. It was global warming then.
Right, because obviously when they saw things weren't just warming up, there were other things. We have to pin the blame on climate change now. Man-made climate change.
Right.
Yes.
So they demonized the wrong part of the argument. They demonized CO2. And when they went after CO2 and called it a pollutant, they made a huge mistake, because without CO2, everything dies. And so the science is falling apart on them. Got to remember now, we've had people in here, Senator Golden, other people in here that say we're doomed in 3 years and 4 years and 9 years. And the cyclical pattern of weather is pretty interesting. But anyway, Lee Zeldin, man, there's a lot of things to watch out there. But when it comes to the EPA, this is probably one of the biggest moves ever. So we'll see what the fallout is on that. All right, well, Miss Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
All right, here's the deal. She's now convicted sex trafficker, and she was associated with Jeffrey Epstein and all that. She says she's willing to testify before Congress if, 2 conditions, she's offered immunity and receives the questions in advance.
Yeah, she says she won't talk to them unless she gets immunity.
If she's forced to go, her attorney says she'll just declare the 5th.
Right.
So she's obviously getting some really good advice. And so what's happening here is she's in jail for 20 years. If she gets called to testify, she'll plead the 5th. That doesn't go anywhere.
Right,
So now that puts the pressure on Congress to make a deal. And the deal is, if I get immunity and I get the questions in advance. Now that problem, that puts her in a hot spot. Because if she's offered immunity and doesn't like the questions. Now what do you do?
Okay, let me ask you this. If you're in a position to wheel and deal on this, would you offer her immunity but no questions in advance?
No.
Okay, why not?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry.
We'll give you immunity, but we're not giving you a preview of what we're going to ask you.
That could be part of the deal. So immunity being what it is, that's the end game for her.
Absolutely. She's got 20 years in front of her.
So if they do that, part of the immunity is she can't declare the 5th.
Well,
So people who have been given immunity and they're called back into court, they are not allowed to get the 5th, use the 5th. So we'll see where this goes. But I think in time she makes a deal and goes.
Do you think that the government is willing to give her a deal?
Everybody wants this settled. But have you noticed something? In 2 days, this is not the main story that the Democrats are pushing anymore.
Yeah.
And I think they're a little worried about this.
Yeah.
Because if there's anything in there to get, they want it for Trump, and there's nothing in there to get Trump with, at least there doesn't appear to be.
Right.
And so now they're coming down to, do we really want all our friends exposed here?
Well, and that's the thing, too. You know, Democrats have pushed some dumb things.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty dumb. They've had this for a long time. They know who's on the list. They know what's going on.
Yeah, and is there a list?
Well, that's the thing. There is no client list, but there are probably flight records and some indications.
Yeah, there's record of something.
Oh, yeah.
This next story is really alarming and sad because, and I'm glad that it did make the news, but it's not a top story, and that is Pope Leo the 14th did come out and condemn the brutal machete attacks that killed 49 Christians in the Congo a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
The Pope, the State Department, the United Nations, and leading Christian groups have all condemned this new attack by the Islamic regime over there, and went after there in the Democratic Republic of Congo and killed 49 Christians. I mean, the murders are so brutal you can't even talk about them. This is not a uncommon occurrence. Now the question is, what will the State Department, what will the Pope, what will the United Nations and other large Christian organizations do? You got to understand the Islamic terrorists, both in Nigeria and the Democratic Republic of Congo, they want to turn all of that land into radical Islam. And Christians are just the main target. So, look, this is real stuff. And, boy. Anyway, thank you, Pope Benedict, for standing up and bringing attention to this. Good stuff. All right, well, there's a lot going on, and cheesecake is, wow. Cheesecake.
How do you want yours?
Well, Peggy makes an apricot cheesecake that is to die for. So I'll wait for that.
You've been holding out on us again. No. I don't know if we've had that here.
Good. You know, there's just something. I mean, I'm a pretty transparent guy, but
you are.
I'm going to hold on to that one. We'll be right back.
Thank you very much.
And even when the waters won't stop rising, even when I'm caught in the dead of the night, I know.
Where big ideas grow.
Since 1987, Four Seasons Nursery has been the gold standard in the green industry here in Southern Oregon. Tim Elbert and his friendly staff continue to offer the best plants and most accurate knowledge to create your dream landscape. At Four Seasons Nursery on Crater Lake Avenue, you can let your imagination run wild with a huge selection of all things plant and gardening for both inside and outside beautification. Whether it's a flower for your window seal, one of our beautifully renowned signature hanging baskets, or a complete landscape design for your entire property, Four Seasons Nursery can help you every step of the way with design services, workshops, and more. Let your imagination run wild as you immerse yourself in their nursery filled with beauty that knows no bounds. Four Seasons Nursery, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 1/2 mile north of Vilas Road, 541-779-5603, 541-779-5603.
Perry Atkinson.
I learned this from the late Rush Limbaugh. I interviewed Rush Limbaugh a couple of weeks before we moved to Southern Oregon in 1983. And I asked Rush Limbaugh the question, I said, what is the key to your program? And he said two things. He said, one is be comfortable in making fun of yourself and having a good time. And the other one is, when you have a guest on, remember they're the star, you're not. It always stuck with me. Hi, good morning. 20 minutes past the hour. Really kind of one story in our backyard that I wanted to kind of bring to your attention. That is our own Attorney General is joining 22 other Democratic Attorney Generals across the United States to sue the Trump administration for restricting Planned Parenthood clinic funding. Yeah. Now, I remember years ago, I was sitting on one of the committees at the RNC. On one side of me was Phyllis Schlafly, the late Phyllis Schlafly, and the other side of me was Henry Hyde, congressman. And little did I know that at that time, I literally was sitting between two giants. Yeah. I had no idea who I was sitting between, and we just became friends and chatted back and forth. And of course, the Hyde Amendment was the biggie. And the Hyde Amendment basically said that no federal dollars could go to Planned Parenthood. Or I should put it this way, no federal dollars should pay for abortion. Mm-hmm. Then we find out that there's money in Medicaid going to pay for abortions. Mm-hmm. Really? Mm-hmm. That's federal money. Yeah. So the president, during all of his DOGE and investigation and looking into Medicaid and Medicare and the fraud and, quite frankly, the misuse of dollars, and cutting some of that out, included the dollars going to Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. And it looks like Planned Parenthood, it continues to be defunded from the federal government. So this tricky deal where you have an organization that primarily does abortions, that's their number one thing, receiving federal dollars either through Medicaid or other grants. And so anyway, our Attorney General, Rayfield, has said that thousands of people rely on Planned Parenthood for their health care. Federal money cannot be used on abortion even before the latest legislation, according to the law. But he says that, listen to this, Planned Parenthood clinics provide a wide range of health care services, and about 10% of their care is abortion-related services. That's just a bald-faced lie. That's not the truth. Mm-hmm. Their number one function,
absolutely,
is killing babies. And so,
which, by the way, is not health care.
No, no, it's murder. Yeah. But as far as all the other things that supposedly they provide for women's health, a lot of those clinics have completely wiped that out. Yeah. And there isn't a doctor or an ER room that wouldn't take care of a woman for whatever those health issues are. Exactly. But Planned Parenthood is obviously what it is, the number one abortion provider in the country. But here's our Attorney General joining 22 others suing the Trump administration. The only thing I can say is, well, okay, spend your time and money there, but it's not going to go anywhere. I can't tell you of a appellate court appeal. Well, let me put it this way. A district court that sues the Trump administration that doesn't go to the Court of Appeals and gets it overturned. Yeah. Oh, yes. That's the pattern. Name one that he's not won.
Over and over again.
So it's just a delay of the final decision. But I guess they exercise themselves by saying that, we're doing something, we're fighting for you.
Right, we're doing the right thing. Yeah.
We're doing the right thing. Yeah, it's always the right thing. Yeah, they're the righteousness of all culture.
Exactly. Yes.
Anyway, so much for that. I got to be careful about my words.
Yeah. Well,
because I could get. Let's see, what could I get? I could be denied cheesecake, and that would be horrible.
On hump day, that would be tough.
That would be tough. All right, let's take a look at the satellite image. Whoa. A lot going on, but we do have, you see that system up there swirling around? That's going to continue to drop the temperatures back into the 80s. And you know what? We're going to stay there for almost a whole week.
Yes. Yep.
Very pleasant seasonal weather. Yeah. And it does produce, now there's a downside. This is thunderstorm making weather.
Well, especially today. By the way, did you see any flashing going on last night?
I didn't, but I saw a thunderhead out there that must have went up to 40,000 feet.
Oh, really?
It was huge.
I woke up in the middle of the night, and as I opened my eyes, and I saw flashing. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, this is not supposed to happen till, later today.
Really?
And because there are warnings out for severe weather and hazardous fire conditions. So today is a kind of a critical day in that sense.
All right, be careful.
All right, well, we saw the president sign an agreement with the European Union, and the European Union representative looked quite pleased with it. Apparently not everybody is in Europe. Well, Liz Peek joined Fox Business's Bottom Line and talked about the Europeans being furious at President Trump's winning streak on trade deals.
Oh, the Europeans are furious about it. There are words like capitulation and submission floating around Europe because they gave up. What did they get? I mean, that's a good question. Yes, cars aren't going to be taxed at 25%, and the overall tariff level came down. But this is a tremendous win for President Trump. And, you know, you have to kind of keep this in perspective, right? China is a really tough situation because they have things we need, like rare earths. Europe has nothing. I mean, but they despise Donald Trump. They're furious about the NATO push to get them to spend 5% of GDP. They're not all NATO members, but a lot of them are. I mean, I think it's a very interesting thing that they push so hard. Months of tough negotiation. They talk about over what? What did they have? Seriously? I mean, this is a group of nations, 27 nations, that have barely grown over the last 30 years as the United States has zoomed. They're nowhere in AI. They're nowhere on energy. They're in trouble economically. Yeah. And so I'm thrilled that this happened, but no one should think this was easy because of personalities, really. Right. But no one should also think it's anything but a win from the United States.
And we were
interesting.
Sure miss her being on the Dove.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she's now a contributor to those other people.
Yeah.
But the only thing I can say is that she makes a very good point. What do they got going for themselves?
Yeah.
They're borderline becoming second world countries.
Yeah.
And folks, let me tell you this. Gosh, this sounds horrible, but it's true. Part of the problem in Europe is this subtle infiltration of Muslim
and you know what
growth and the population growing, and then allowing segments of their culture to be run by Sharia law,
becoming less and less subtle every day.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you got to understand that there is no growth there. Do you want London to look like?
Well,
I don't know. Look like Iran?
Yeah. Well, look at the story we just saw. You know, about the Christians being slaughtered by Muslims.
I would hope these countries would wake up. You got to remember.
Yeah.
I want to say this carefully, but I mean, you look to England, you look at the UK. That's our mother.
Yeah.
So to speak. They don't
well, it's
write me a letter,
interesting,
but
too, because
that's our cultural
right. And I know that there are a lot of people who have no faith who think, you know, all religions are the same. You know, it's interesting. Bill Maher, you know, the outspoken liberal, he took this on, and he goes and he started comparing Islam with Christianity, and he's no Christian. Yeah. He said, "Are you people kidding? Don't you see the difference? All you have to do is watch the news."
Yeah, I think Bill Maher and some others know exactly what's going on, but they've made such a name for themselves being on the other side. Yeah. They're trying to gradually leave it.
Yeah. Yeah, you know,
they can't be tagged by it anymore.
Right. And I think a lot of us through the years have said, I know you vote on this side of the aisle, you know, you're D. But issue by issue, you live a life quite differently than what you guys espouse. Yeah. And I think guys like Bill Maher see that.
Yeah, he's still very crude, but
oh, absolutely.
But anyway, there could be a little bit of some behind-the-scenes epiphanies going off. I don't know, but no, I would say Liz Peek makes a big point there. Europe, are you going to really allow yourself to go down this road?
Right.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on. So I mean, Russia. If Russia doesn't get pushed back, all of you guys are subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, all of you, all 27 of you. You know, I don't care what NATO does.
Right.
If you guys aren't going to support NATO, why have it?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and the list goes on and on. But I don't know. Are you still going to pay a lot of tariff on the next Mercedes you buy, or the next BMW you buy, the next Volkswagen you buy?
No.
Well, look on the sales agreement. Are they charging you for tariff? Or do they bury it in the price of the manufacturing price of the car?
That's a great question. Well, I don't know. Buy American.
You heard it here on the Dove. All right, we'll be right back.
There's a kind of love that God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you, but God only knows the real you.
Your property demands equipment with more reliability, durability, and versatility built in. Kubota equipment is ready to get the job done right.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
Clean water is essential to your good health. Ultra Pure Purified Water has been delivering purified, healthy drinking water to the Rogue Valley since 1995. Locally owned and family run, Ultra Pure Purified Water uses a multi-stage process ensuring your delivery of water is 99.8% pure, so your family stays hydrated and healthy. Online at ultrapurewaterinc.com or call 541-734-0828. 541-734-0828.
Looking for the perfect RV adventure?
Team Toner's got you covered from homes to homes on wheels.
Discover unbeatable deals only at American RV in Southern Oregon.
Welcome back. 28 minutes before the hour. We were just chatting here. In fact, between the time you ended the sentence and we started here, 2 things came to my mind. That's how fast my mind went.
Can you share them with us?
Okay, yeah. Prime Minister Ben Netanyahu and President Trump. Okay, now they're going to meet again. Apparently, they are going to agree, but they're agreeing again that they're going to reject a Palestinian state, a 2-state solution.
Right. Yes.
But isn't it interesting if you pay attention to the various comments for these 2 world leaders? They both have been referred to as the modern-day Churchill.
Yeah.
President Trump has been given that distinction, and so has Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah. And I never really thought about it in Netanyahu, but he kind of is. He kind of like the Churchill of Israel, because as I was saying earlier, I doubt that he gets reelected, but they still want him to be the guy in charge of this war.
Yeah, that is very Churchillian.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if a 2-state solution is a no-go, then where does that leave things?
Right.
So let's check in with CBN Newswatch and find out.
This is CBN Newswatch.
It is Wednesday, July 30th, going to begin this half hour with the growing international calls for a Palestinian state, including from Great Britain. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says establishing such a state would be a reward to Hamas for its terrorism. And he says Hamas is the big obstacle to freeing the hostages in Gaza. Paul Petit brings us the story now. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
While the IDF continues its assault against Hamas in Gaza, Israel is seeing setbacks on the global stage. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is joining with France by saying he will recognize a Palestinian state in September unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire.
We believe that this announcement and the recognition of UK of the state of Palestine will bring justice and peace for the region.
President Trump says he did not discuss Starmer's decision when they met this week and criticized the plan.
You know, you're rewarding Hamas if you do that, and I don't think they should be rewarded. So I'm not in that camp, to be honest. We'll let you know where we are, but I am not in that camp.
The move by the UK comes amidst a UN conference pressing for a 2-state solution, but only about 15 of the nations attending have expressed support for a statement calling for a Palestinian state.
It ain't gonna happen. We are aware of the fact that there are countries in Europe today with a huge Muslim populations. Sometimes it affects the policies of their governments, but this cannot and will not lead Israel to commit suicide. We won't allow a jihadist terror state in the heart of our ancient homeland. It ain't gonna happen.
As the IDF continues to apply military pressure on Hamas in Gaza, Israel's effort is on freeing the 50 Israeli hostages still remaining in captivity. Netanyahu says he's holding daily talks to make that happen.
But there is one big obstacle, and everyone knows it. That is Hamas. It is stubborn in its refusal. President Trump said it. We say it. Everyone who knows the facts, including the mediators, everyone knows it. We are not letting up. We will continue to do everything we can in one way or another.
In an historic move, the European Union and the entire Arab League, including Muslim countries, signed on to a declaration condemning the October 7, 2023 terrorist attack and calling on Gaza to release all hostages and end its rule in Gaza. A glimmer of hope for Israel more than 20 months after the largest terrorist attack on its soil. In Jerusalem, Paul Petit, CBN News.
And our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem with more. So, Chris, what can you tell us about this declaration from the EU and Arab League?
Well, this is the declaration right here, Ephraim. It does condemn October 7th, and it does condemn Hamas. But what it still does, Ephraim, is it advocates for a two-state solution, which would include the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip. It also wants the Palestinian Authority to go ahead and control Gaza. But many people are saying the Palestinian Authority still has its pay-to-slay program that rewards terrorism. It regularly condemns Israel in its media. And the Palestinian Authority, many believe, wants a two-state solution on its way to a one-state solution and eventually eliminate Israel. And that's proposing. So this whole idea, this declaration is really proposing for many an idea that really hasn't worked for decades.
Now, Britain is rejecting the idea that recognizing a Palestinian state would reward Hamas. Why does Israel say it actually is a reward for Hamas?
Well, they say that it will reward Hamas for October 7th and reward Hamas for the current campaign right now to blame Israel for the situation in Gaza, where humanitarian aid goes in or doesn't goes in. But when it does, it's stolen by Hamas and actually hoarded by Hamas and then actually sold back to the population. So Hamas is creating a humanitarian crisis and then blaming Israel, and also creating a global media campaign of Israeli starvation of Gaza. That's also been fueled by the media and promoting the Hamas Qatar being much the sponsor of Hamas, those talking points. And what it's done is really create a diplomatic tsunami against Israel, where more and more nations are threatening, like the UK, to recognize a Palestinian state. And as Gideon Sar, Israel's foreign minister, said, some nations are appeasing their Muslim populations by blaming Israel, and it's really coming at the expense of the Jewish people and the Jewish state.
All right, well, keep an eye on that. Changing every 30 seconds, something else over there changes. All right, 21 minutes before the hour, let's check in with a guy that's constantly trying to make a deal with his wife.
A look at our weather from Grange Co-op. Today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, mostly sunny skies with daytime high temperatures in the upper 80s for Vancouver and Portland and near 92 for Wilsonville and McMinnville with a light and variable wind. Continuing with mostly sunny skies as we move down the Willamette Valley with high temperatures in the low 90s for Salem and Albany, near 89 in Corvallis and 90 in Eugene with a light northwest wind. Mostly sunny across central Oregon, then a chance of thunderstorms with a fire weather watch and highs near 94 in Prineville and mid to upper 80s for Bend and Sun River. Sunny and hot again in Boise, Idaho with a daytime high near 98. Along the Oregon coast, patchy fog, then sunny in mid-70s in Coos Bay, sunny in upper 60s in Port Orford, patchy fog in Brookings, then mostly sunny in mid-50s, and mostly sunny in near 62 in Crescent City. Isolated showers and possibly thunderstorms across central Oregon with a fire weather watch in effect this afternoon and daytime highs near 96 in Grants Pass and Medford, low 90s in Ashland and near 88 in Klamath Falls. Into northern California, scattered showers and possibly thunderstorms in low 90s in Wairika, sunny skies in Redding with a high near 97, Chico near 93, and Sacramento with a high in the upper 80s. In the Bay Area, mostly cloudy, then becoming sunny with highs near 80 in Santa Rosa and 77 in Napa. Partly sunny in San Francisco with a high in the mid-60s. And today in San Jose, becoming sunny with a high near 79. It's a look at your Wednesday weather from Grange Co-op.
All right, a beautiful shot of our valley from the east side to the west side, and if I was to give that a degree, somewhere around 280, somewhere in looking almost due west, a little bit to the northwest, a little bit. Okay.
Hey,
All right, good.
I got enough trouble just, with direction. Don't put numbers on it.
I noticed that.
All right, well, nicknamed after an insect and one of the most produced cars ever, the last classic VW Beetle rolled off the assembly line on this day in history.
On July 30th, 2003, a piece of automotive history came to a quiet close. At a Volkswagen plant in Puebla, Mexico, the last classic VW Beetle, number 21,529,464, rolled off the line. Painted baby blue and part of a 3,000-unit final edition, it was sent straight to VW's museum in Wolfsburg, Germany. The Beetle's story began in the 1930s, born from a request by Adolf Hitler for an affordable car for the German people. Designed by Ferdinand Porsche, the so-called KDF Wagen debuted in 1939 and was quickly nicknamed the Beetle for its rounded shape. After World War II, it became a global phenomenon. By the 1960s, it was America's top-selling import, fueled by clever advertising, a starring role in The Love Bug, and even a cameo on the Beatles' Abbey Road album cover. By the late 1970s, stricter safety standards and changing tastes pushed the classic Beetle out of the U.S., and by 2003, out of production entirely. An icon at rest, but never forgotten.
That's right. My very first car, a 1966 VW Beetle. I paid $600 for it, and that was in 1969, 1970.
Yeah, so it was only,
yeah, and that was my ski car. It was a great car. It had the worst heater in the world.
Oh, yeah.
It was like forced air heating. You had to move to have heat come through your heating system.
And the windows kept fogging up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, but what a great car.
Okay, good stuff all the way around. All right, well, did you ever receive a spanking in church?
Not in church, but my parents waited until I got home.
Well, comedian Andy Andrews, he shares a story why a young 7-year-old, if you can imagine this, got a spanking for singing Amazing Grace in church.
What?
Yep.
My dad was a minister of music. Do you know that one time my dad asked me, I was like 7 years old, and my dad asked me to sing Amazing Grace in front of the whole congregation. And I did it, and I got a spanking for it. I bet you'd like to hear that story, wouldn't you? Because, see, I remember getting asked to do it, but 7 years old, I had heard that song so much, and I didn't really know what it meant, but it was boring to me because it was just over and over. They'd sing it every week. And so when my dad said, would you do Amazing Grace in front of the congregation? I knew the words, but I was kind of bored with the tune. And so, but when he got me up there, I was up there, and right before I sang, I remembered that I had noticed the words to Amazing Grace would fit perfectly into my mother's favorite song, which was Ghost Riders in the Sky. So I said, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. And within there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Praise the Lord, let's hear it for Jesus, the Holy Ghost Rider in the sky. And so, you know how how you're laughing right now. The congregation did that too, but my daddy wasn't laughing, and he kind of went over to me, and he leaned down and he said, "That wasn't what I was expecting." so try it again. And I thought, ooh. Well, I had also noticed that the words to Amazing Grace would fit perfectly into the music of a song that I heard my grandfather play on his record player behind the barn. I didn't really know what the song was about, but it was called House of the Rising Sun. And I also knew, I thought at that moment, my mom likes Elvis, so I thought I'd throw a little of that in there too. And when my dad backed away, I said, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. And when my dad took a step toward me, I took a step back and I said, thank you very much.
That was really funny. And he said he got a spanking for that. That's very good.
That's a good one.
Oh,
that is very, very good. Okay, well, listen, we'll take a... Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Buying or selling a home can be stressful. It's one of the biggest decisions you'll make in your lifetime. That's why it's important to work with someone you trust, someone who has the right experience and knowledge of the market.
Hi, we're Patrick and Paulina Leiser with Leiser Real Estate Group.
And whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, our mission is to take the stress out of the transaction and make it as seamless and rewarding as possible.
Contact us today. We look forward to working with you.
Hey, this is Ed, co-owner of Visiting Angels. To continue to serve our seniors, we need more caregivers with a heart to serve. Our mission statement is honoring the art of giving, which means we honor you, the caregiver. We know it's our people that make Visiting Angels the best in-home care provider and a great place to work. Come be our next amazing caregiver. Give us a call or apply online. At Visiting Angels, we're committed to you because we honor the art of giving.
At Kelly's Automotive Service,
being good stewards of what God has entrusted to us
is at the core of our business.
We believe what we do matters.
Every interaction, every transaction is another opportunity
to bring Christ's values into the marketplace.
If you're a technician who wants to be part of something bigger,
or just looking for a new shop to bring your vehicle,
we would love to meet you.
We're Kelly's Automotive Service,
where we service your vehicle,
but take care of you.
He said, well, your son has been in a plane crash, and I'm here to take you to him.
It was terrifying because his head was swollen, his eyes were purple and swollen. It was just surreal.
It was very shocking to see him like that. He was almost unrecognizable, just a horrific scene.
I called a friend of mine and I told her, I just need you to get people together and start praying.
Watch the 700 Club Wednesday morning at 11 on theDove TV.
All right, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's Mr. Jerry Bilden's neighborhood. Okay. Anyway, yesterday it was interesting. I had scientist, really he's a geologist, Gregory Wrightstone on yesterday on Focus Today. And he was pre-announcing what we now reported on, that the EPA was going to recall what they call, quote, the holy grail of global warming. And anyway, and this was put into effect in 2009 by the Obama administration. It's called the endangerment findings. And how important was this? And here's what he had to say.
In 2 hours or so, Lee Zeldin will be announcing in Indianapolis a repeal of what was called the endangerment finding. And this is, your listeners may not be aware of that name, but they've used this finding. This was an EPA ruling that came out under the Obama Environmental Protection Agency in 2009 that determined, they determined that carbon dioxide, CO2, is a pollutant. And because it's a pollutant, they found that they've used that to regulate all sorts of things. Well, if you just look around, if your listeners or viewers are sitting in their home, just look around. Just about anything that uses electricity has now been made more expensive with fewer choices than what you had before. So you're only allowed to buy a ceiling fan, believe it or not, if the a government-approved ceiling fan, government-approved dishwasher, shower head, dishwasher, washer and dryer, you name it. They were trying to regulate that you could only buy electric vehicles, all because of this EPA ruling in 2009 called the endangerment finding, and that's hopefully going away this afternoon in about 2 hours.
And it did. They repealed it. So, all right, Pastor Mark Little will be with us. We need we need a little fix.
Yes, we do. A little fix.
A little fix.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
All right. Well, you may be aware of this, and some others may be aware of this because news came out a couple weeks ago, but some of us may not realize it until you get in line and try to get on your next flight. But you will be happier because the next time you get in the TSA line to go through security, it's going to be a lot quicker. Check this out.
One of the least favorite things about airline travel has now come to an end: the dreaded shoe removal at the TSA security checkpoint. In early July, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced that travelers flying domestically can now keep their shoes on at TSA checkpoints, officially ending the nearly 20-year-old shoes-off rule. This shift is being hailed as a traveler-friendly move that aims to cut wait times, reduce confusion, and modernize the TSA experience without compromising safety, thanks to cutting-edge screening technology. The original rule dates back to 2006, following the Richard Reed shoe bomber incident in December 2001, when explosives hidden in shoes sparked new security mandates. Now, what's old news abroad has become America's future: a simpler, more efficient process. While most travelers leave their shoes on now, TSA agents may still ask individuals to remove footwear if additional screening is needed. So here's to faster lines, less hassle, and a TSA process that steps forward while letting you keep your shoes on.
Okay, let me ask you. They said that technology has increased, that the screening devices are better now, so we don't have to take our shoes off. When did this happen? When did we get this new equipment?
Well, it's a constant upgrade thing.
Oh, okay.
It's a constant deal. So okay. I don't know how fast they find something new and implement it. Mm-hmm. Here at our airport, I do know that we're looking at, because I sit on the committee over here, I think we're looking at a considerably upgrade on how we handle baggage in the future.
Oh, really?
And the screening of it and all that. But yeah, the technology's there. And I think the other thing was that they're really not telling you.
What?
The odor got so bad nobody could work in it.
I was going to say, those poor TSA agents, they got these bins coming by with the shoes. They're like,
come on. I mean, you know.
Febreze.
You know. But
yeah, but now you know the trouble is? People don't have to take off their shoes to go through the TSA checkpoint, but then they go get on a flight, they take off their shoes, and they put their foot up on the rail next to my arm.
Yeah, I know.
What?
I know. That's becoming a big issue.
It is.
Especially your foot up on the seat in front of you.
I am seeing all kinds of stuff on Facebook and stuff, people posting the confrontations that are occurring.
You know,
people being removed from flights because they refuse to put their shoes back on.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty interesting. But I will say this, that's one simple little act by not removing your shoes is really going to speed things up.
I'll tell you what, for guys like me now, that's
well,
huge.
You're going to get pulled over for other reasons.
You got nothing on your leg. Yeah, they're going to.
No, it's in your leg.
Right, it's in my leg. And again, too, as pointed out in that report, you may still be asked to take your shoes off if there are some issues. Yes,
it's possible.
And I know for me, I don't know. It depends on how active this titanium is in my leg.
Yeah.
I don't know if it sets off the alarms or not. We'll find out.
We'll find out. Yeah, you'll find out. But I do know this, that, listen, if you do a lot of traveling, pay the money and get the TSA pre-check.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What does that give you when you do the pre-check?
Well, it just, first of all, you're not standing in the line over here almost missing your flight because of so many people.
Okay.
You go to a TSA pre-checkout line and it's much faster. You don't have to take off hardly anything.
Okay.
Okay. And
hardly anything.
I mean, you get to stay
That
dressed.
brings some weird images to
Well,
mind.
Put
it back on.
Well, there's a lot of comedians say I go to the airport naked and I get dressed on the other side, you know. So, but no, I mean, it really speeds things up. So you pay a little extra money. You can go online and do this, and then you get a little card. And when you buy your ticket or you go to the ticket counter to check in, you show them that card, and you're given a pre-check pass.
Okay.
I have one.
All right.
Okay, and I have to tell you, it's for the kind of traveling I do sometimes, I have to go somewhere and back fast.
Yeah.
Standing in line is just about to grind you down to nothing when you got to do that. So anyway, I would say do that. All right, take with you out of the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28. This, we all know this. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. You're tired and worn out and carrying a lot of weight? Take it to the Lord today. Spend some quiet time before Him. All right, we'll be right back.
Hellgate Jet Boat Excursions is throwing it back every Thursday. Book one quick and scenic excursion at regular price and get the second ticket for only $19.59 every Thursday. Glide inches above the river, see the native wildlife, and experience the majestic views of the legendary Hellgate Canyon. Don't miss the best of the Pacific Northwest with our 2-hour excursion. It's Throwback Thursday all season long with our buy one, get one for $19.59. Call 541-479-7204 to book. Some restrictions apply. Visit hellgate.com for details.
You feel most alive where you feel most at home. And this is living. Bobcat, the company that changed the way the world works, is coming home with a quality compact tractor built to match your quality of life. This isn't work you have to do. It's work you get to do. So get it done in a tractor that's all you. See your dealer or visit bobcat.com.
The threat of wildfire poses a growing risk to Oregonians. You can prepare now by taking 3 important steps. Create a home inventory, make copies of important financial records, and contact your insurance company to make sure you have the right amounts and types of home insurance coverage. Be wildfire ready by being insurance ready. Visit dfr.oregon.gov/prepare now to learn how.
Answers with Bayless Conley. Answers to strengthen your faith, to know God better.
He suffered for us in our place.
Watch Answers with Bayless Conley Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday on theDove TV.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
I know many people that have tried everything in life and they have not found satisfaction, inward peace, joy, assurance, and security. And they're still searching. You'll never find peace and joy and happiness until you yield your life to Christ. You never will. You have a moment right now. The Bible says now is the accepted time. Today is the day of salvation. People are searching for the answers. You must make the choice.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
Find answers to life's biggest questions with pastor and author Bayless Conley, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday on theDove TV.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mr. Building's neighborhood.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Will you be my friend?
Won't you be my neighbor?
Won't you be my neighbor?
God, we know too many of these words and phrases.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Anyway, since Mr. Bilden is here, it's going to be a calm day. Things are going to go along just fine.
I brought a cardigan and my little tennis shoes.
Yeah. Don't take your shoes off.
Okay. That's coming later.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, good morning to you. A lot going on in the news. There always is. Beautiful weather. We're actually going to start dropping a few degrees each day as we head towards the weekend. So we look forward to a little bit cooler weather. Very seasonable, but very, very nice. Tons of stuff going on in the news. Always is. And we woke up to a tsunami.
How about that?
Well, kind of, sort of.
Well, yeah.
One of the largest earthquakes ever recorded in history happened yesterday afternoon, late in the afternoon, in the evening. 8.8 off the eastern shore of Russia, one of the largest ever recorded.
Yeah.
And that set off tsunami warnings all over the place, up and down Alaska, the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, California, and Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And our peak possibility of tsunami, or at least high waves, came about 11:30 to 2 o'clock. 11:30 last night to 2 o'clock this morning.
All right.
There's still some tsunami alerts for Southern California and parts of Hawaii, so we'll have more on that coming up. But 8.8.
Yeah,
that is massive.
Huge.
That's huge. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. What's going on?
Well, especially with that in mind, it is National Climb a Mountain Day. Get to higher ground. And I'm sure there were a lot of people in a lot of places that have done exactly that overnight. But this really is talking about committing yourself to accomplishing your goals. Sometimes they seem like mountains in front of us, but you know, it's like eating an elephant, right?
Yep.
One bite at a time, just one step at a time in this case. Or if you want, you know, you can go climb an actual mountain, and there are many around us, including in our own backyard. Some call it Mount Pitt, some call it Mount McLaughlin, but we have other options as well. Roxy Ann, Mount Ashland, oh my gosh, there's so many, but so pick your mountain. Go climb it.
All right.
It's also National Whistleblower Day. Now, this is unusual. I didn't know this, that our founding fathers recognized the need to protect those who report corruption when they see it. The day reminds us to honor and support the people who speak up about fraud, abuse, or waste. And I have found in our current political climate, whistleblowers are, the reaction to whistleblowers anyway, is determined by which side of the aisle they are on. If you're a D or a Republican, your reception may be significantly different.
Yeah, it is. But I think there's a similarity about all whistleblowers.
What's that?
Why would they do it? Why would they risk their personal career to become a whistleblower? And I think it's conviction.
Yeah. Because
personal conviction.
Oftentimes their world gets turned upside down.
It's seen as political.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
But why would you do this? Why would you put your neck out there if, in fact, because the only person who's going to lose here is you.
Yeah.
And so why would you do it unless you're deeply convicted that you saw something that shouldn't be?
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Also, National Father-in-Law Day. Some of us are fathers-in-law, celebrating the father-in-law in your life, and hopefully it's a good relationship. And I'm blessed. I have in-laws. My in-law children are just like my kids, so I'm very pleased with that. National Cheesecake Day. Enjoy. Now, it may be called cheesecake, but there's very little cake-like substance in this. It's creamy and thick and rich and delicious. Of course, that comes from the soft cheese used as the main ingredient. And depending on the recipe, either cream cheese or cottage cheese is used. When the cheese is mixed with sugar, eggs, and other ingredients, the batter is added to a crust, and it is nothing but delicious. The earliest attested mention of a cheesecake is by Greek physician Aegimus. And he wrote a book on the art of making cheesecakes, and the initial intended consumption was for Greek athletes.
Really? Was it, so that had some energy in it or something?
Must be, you know, something about it. I don't know, but why not? It sounds like athletic food to me.
Okay, well, there for a lot of excuses.
All right. And then we boil down to this whole thing, the conflict sometimes, or the draw between the heart and the head. as we process things. And we see sometimes messages are delivered to hit us in the heart, sometimes in the head. Sometimes it's difficult for us because there could be a big space between them, but not in shrimp. Did you know that shrimp have their heart in their head?
Really?
Yes. So that gives them an advantage when it comes to tough decisions.
Really?
Yes. Now they not only have their hearts in their head, they have other organs in their head as well. But it just gave me a good chance to get some really nice shrimp footage here, and then talk about the possibilities of shucking shrimp. You like shucking shrimp?
Well,
not sucking shrimp, shucking shrimp.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So anyway, enjoy your shrimp and then have cheesecake afterwards to boot.
Can you say Bubba Gump?
Bubba Gump, yeah.
Bubba Gump and shrimp.
It's hard to think of shrimp without, Gump coming up.
All right, speaking of Bubba, here he is.
A look at our weather from Grange Co-op. Today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, mostly sunny skies with daytime high temperatures in the upper 80s for Vancouver and Portland and near 92 for Wilsonville and McMinnville with a light and variable wind. Continuing with mostly sunny skies as we move down the Willamette Valley with high temperatures in the low 90s for Salem and Albany, near 89 in Corvallis and 90 in Eugene with a light northwest wind. Mostly sunny across central Oregon, then a chance of thunderstorms with a fire weather watch and highs near 94 in Prineville and mid to upper 80s for Bend and Sun River. Sunny and hot again in Boise, Idaho with a daytime high near 98. Along the Oregon coast, patchy fog, then sunny in mid-70s in Coos Bay, sunny in upper 60s in Port Orford, patchy fog in Brookings, then mostly sunny in mid-50s, and mostly sunny in near 62 in Crescent City. Isolated showers and possibly thunderstorms across central Oregon with a fire weather watch in effect this afternoon and daytime highs near 96 in Grants Pass and Medford, low 90s in Ashland and near 88 in Klamath Falls. Into Northern California, scattered showers and possibly thunderstorms in low 90s in Wairika, sunny skies in Redding with a high near 97, Chico near 93, and Sacramento with a high in the upper 80s. In the Bay Area, mostly cloudy, then becoming sunny with highs near 80 in Santa Rosa and 77 in Napa. Partly sunny in San Francisco with a high in the mid-60s. And today in San Jose, becoming sunny with a high near 79. It's a look at your Wednesday weather from Grange Co-op.
And a beautiful shot of our place called home, better known as Southern Oregon's Rogue Valley. There it is. It's interesting. Every time we tune in, this kind of looking at about 280, 285, 290, somewhere in there. So it's a little bit to the west-northwest.
Okay.
And if you look out there, you can see the airport, and that's where we are. So, nice shot.
Yeah, that was a little bit of information that will travel with me everywhere I go on a plane.
For those who don't know, Jerry didn't believe, or didn't know, I guess, that the numbers on a runway actually meant something.
Yeah, not just an assigned runway that you are given and you have to go and either land or take off on it. It meant something else.
Yeah, it's part of the compass. It's a degree on a compass.
Okay. Well,
so if you're taking off on runway 34, you're flying to the north 340 degrees. Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry to disappoint, but if you take on, if you're at a controlled airport and you land or take off on something that doesn't have a number, you just really did a boo-boo.
Yeah, but the big question is there a meal on this flight?
Cheesecake only. Free cheesecake.
All right. Well, I think that a lot of us in our lives have asked God to intervene on our behalf. Has He done it in your life?
Yeah.
Well, here's Dr. David Jeremiah with great encouragement.
The Bible says God sent His angel and shut the lion's mouth so that they didn't hurt him because he was innocent and he did no wrong before the king. And the Bible says the king was exceedingly glad for him and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den and no injury whatever was found on him. And the Bible vividly portrays the king's delight in Daniel's survival. He checked him over carefully to be sure he was unharmed, just like Daniel's friends who escaped the furnace unscathed. Daniel came out completely uninjured. When we see how ferocious the lions were with the people who were thrown into the den the next day, it's obvious that Daniel was able to escape without a scratch because God intervened in his behalf. My friends, have you ever had God intervene in your behalf? Here's my experience. God usually intervenes in our behalf when with all of our hearts we're standing up for what we know to be right and true. We can almost expect God to do that when we stand for him. And that's why we should never be afraid to stand for God. I know that sometime this week, having heard this message, something's going to happen. You're going to be in a place where you're going to have to do the right thing or the wrong thing, and the right thing is going to be hard. Just remember Daniel. He stood up when everything was against him, and in the midst of his standing up, not only did he feel the blessing of God on his life, but Almighty God intervened in his behalf and helped him come through it with his hands up high.
Didn't bend, didn't bow, didn't burn.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, good morning to you. Good stuff all the way around. Stand up for the right thing today, okay? All right, let's take a look at the top stories. And of course, the earthquake up in Alaska is absolutely staggering in size. 8.8. They say it's one of the largest recorded in 14 years. Some say it's the largest recorded ever. And it's 8.8 magnitude off the eastern shore of Russia, and it sparked tsunami warnings all up and down the Pacific Northwest, actually from Alaska through Washington State, Oregon, and down into California, and all the way over to Hawaii. And so you can see there some high waves coming in. And so apparently on the Oregon coast, it hit yesterday, late last night, 11:30 to 2 o'clock, some high waves, so they didn't seem to be very destructive. Parts of Alaska, the southern part of Alaska coast on the west side, and then they're saying there's still some alert of tsunami high waves down in Southern California. So it has a lot to do with how these tsunamis start and then they mix with the tides of the ocean. In the meantime, Hawaii is still on an alert as well. So 8.8 magnitude. I haven't heard of any deaths or anything like that yet. There is some high water. There was one picture in the middle of a surgical room where the thing started to hit. And the doctors and the nurses threw themselves over the patient while the thing settled down.
I want that doctor. I like that doctor. I would like him.
Well, I mean, when the room's rocking and rolling, what do you do, you know?
Right.
And but anyway, that's a biggie, and a lot more to be said on that. The other thing is, we've already reported on, we'll continue today, but one of the biggest pieces of the 2009 EPA Act, climate control and all that stuff, was removed yesterday. Lee Zeldin, who is head of the EPA now, the chief, and the Environmental Protection Agency, yesterday released an agency's proposed to rescind what they described as, quote, the holy grail of the cult of the climate change religion, which has led to over $1 trillion in regulatory impact across the country. And apparently this piece of the EPA was written during the Obama administration in 2009. It's being repealed by the chief of the EPA now, Lee Zeldin, and apparently that's going to be removed. This is a big deal. This is huge. This is about as big as it gets when it comes to unwinding climate control.
Right.
This is absolutely huge.
When it comes to climate control and energy sources, is nuclear dead in our country? Because it's not in Europe.
No.
Okay.
No, I think that nuclear is going to be revisited big time.
Well, you would think that especially with advancements in technology, that safety measures would definitely increase.
Well, it was demonized.
Yes.
But I can't help but think they're going to revisit it because they have these smaller reactors now.
Right.
You can almost get a home reactor if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like little things like this, you know. Not that I want one in my garage, but yeah. All right, the other story is, as you well know, the Epstein thing just won't go away and probably won't for quite a while. But Ghislaine Maxwell, who has been convicted, 20 years serving there, she was Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand person. She has said now that she's willing to testify before Congress if she's offered immunity and receives the questions in advance. Now, this is kind of interesting because he obviously is working her way for a immunity. Her attorney basically said this, have a nice day if you call her because she's just going to plead the fifth. So, so the Congress response back, and we still don't know what came from the interview with the DOJ yet.
Right.
But the Congress comes back and says, all right, we'll consider immunity. And she said, all right, I want immunity if I testify and give all the answer everything. And I want to see the questions in advance, which is kind of interesting. Now, I think when you're given immunity, you forfeit your Fifth Amendment rights.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll see where this goes, but it's brewing out there.
I got a question. Okay, while watching that footage, some of the B-roll that was running there while you were talking about this story, we see these pictures of Epstein, and especially years gone by, pictures of Epstein with Trump, or with Donald Trump. That's the only pictures we're seeing. We know that him and Bill Clinton were like bros. That Clinton went there like 26 times.
Well, that's the media out there right now.
That's all. That's the only pictures we're seeing. What's up?
Well, they were buddies. I say that they were
friends. They were in same social circles.
They did a lot of things together. But what's so interesting about this is that Trump and him apparently had a falling out about 15 years ago.
Right.
And primarily because Epstein was trying to hire away a lot of his employees at Mar-a-Lago.
Right. Trump said he booted him.
He booted him out.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there to get Trump.
Right. No, I know.
Yeah. But these are the pictures that are all over the media.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy. Not that, no, I understand. I get it. But, this story is not going to go away quite yet.
No, it's not.
Okay. But I tell you the story that has really fizzled, but it's brewing. Is the DOJ and the intelligence agency releasing everything about Russiagate.
Yeah.
That is brewing, and it hasn't been in the news right now, but I can tell you this, folks, it is far from over.
You bet.
Okay. All right, the other story, very sad, but I do want to bring it to your attention. The Pope, the new one, and that is Pope Leo XIV, the State Department, the United Nations, and other leading Christian organizations condemn a new major attack on Christians in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, where they went in. As you well know, they're being run by a very extreme Islamic group. They went in there and literally butchered. That's the best way I can say it without getting more descriptive. Butchered 49 Christians.
Wow, these Christians were praying.
Wow.
Yeah.
So something, folks, needs to be understood here, that the Congo and other parts of Africa are slowly being taken over by radical Islam, and I don't know why the world's sitting by letting this happen. This is, I want to say, this is not unusual.
Yeah.
Slaughtering of Christians in this nature has happened a lot there, and why it's being tolerated, who knows? And I don't know, does any of these countries have a military where they can stand up and fight against this? Like a National Guard or something?
Yeah.
But pretty bad. I want to say thank you for Pope Leo for bringing it to the National Forum.
Yeah.
So good stuff all the way around. All right, let's take a look at what cheesecake looks like after it's sat on the shelf for 2 weeks.
Don't say
I know that you were so much more than what I leave behind. I know that I am loved.
Grange Co-op, where big ideas grow.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian owned and operated, pet friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
Pastor Robert Jeffers of the First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas.
Not just about Christ Jesus, but that I might know him.
Helping you learn, grow, and get on the pathway to victory. Catch it 7 times every weekend on the Dove TV. Tackling the tough issues facing America and our nation's freedom. That's Sekolo on the Dove TV. A bold half hour taking you inside the battle of constitutional and political freedom. Be in the know with Sekolo on the Dove TV.
Hi.
You're kind of panting. What's going on? I don't know if I've ever seen you move that fast.
Okay. Well, I'll just be totally transparent.
Okay.
You're going to hear a lot of noise here today.
Yes, you are.
Because these workers have to work when they can work, and they have to work when it's cool. So So if you hear a lot of banging going on.
Hey, we're glad to have them here.
Yeah. we got construction going on. There's no way around that. Okay. All right, local story, actually a regional story, our own backyard. Oregon's top Attorney General, Dan Rayfield, has joined 22 other Democratic states to file a lawsuit. Who against? Who do you think?
Planned Parenthood? No, against the government for defunding Planned Parenthood.
There you go.
Yeah.
So they're filing a lawsuit jointly to stop the big beautiful bill from pulling the Medicaid part of funding to Planned Parenthood. Okay, and the only thing I can say is have a nice day, because the law is very clear. It's called the Hyde Amendment, and the federal dollars should be going towards abortion.
Right.
And so this is going to go to the courts. And so you have these people filing a district suit, then it goes go to appellate court, and that's usually where it gets thrown out. But Planned Parenthood, under this administration, is finally being defunded from federal dollars, and it should. And by the way, Roe versus Wade moved it from the federal government to the state government. So if you hear all that banging around, that's called progress.
Well, isn't it interesting how easy it is for the government to give money away, but so difficult to stop giving the money away?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, these are people that have never run a balance sheet. These are people that don't know what a P&L is. These are people that haven't got the foggiest idea what a budget is. So this is why.
And also, the morals are askew, because this is a moral issue.
It certainly is. Yeah. Okay, so much for Planned Parenthood. Let's take a look at Wall Street. Okay, here we go. We just had a report come out where look at that. The Dow's up 28 points. I think you're going to see this surge here a little bit. The Nas is up 40, almost 41, and the S&P up 7 points or so. The economy grew 3%. It was above what they thought.
Exactly.
Gold's off a little bit, 33.57. Silver's at 30. Down a little bit, 25 cents, 37.35 or 75. Look at that. Look at crude oil. That's $2.
Hey, yesterday.
That's $2. $70.50 a barrel.
$140 yesterday to fill my truck. $140. I'm not kidding you. And it was relative. It just had hit the reserve ding. You know, the light comes on. $140.
Well, are you putting Jet A in there?
I wish. I'm just putting that old.
What's the difference between Diesel 2 and Jet A?
Yeah, what?
Very little. Did you know that?
No.
Jet A is diesel. Really? It's just highly refined.
No kidding.
Yeah. If you put Jet A in your truck, it would run.
Well, I would,
and really go fast.
I might pay $140 for that, but I'm just getting regular diesel.
There you go.
All right. Well, you know who we miss? Liz Peek. We don't get her on anymore, but we can listen in to her once in a while on Fox, as we do here. She was on The Bottom Line and spoke about Democrats using performance politics when it comes to immigration, and she puts forth her idea on how to handle those who are already here.
Yeah, it's performance politics, and it's very bizarre to be doubling and now tripling down on expressing your sympathy for people, not just illegal immigrants, but people mainly who have committed crimes in this country. 95% of Americans want those people out of our country. What are they thinking? It's almost unimaginable, really. Democrats continually conflate illegal and legal immigration. And so, they think all immigrants should be protected and should be cosseted and given benefits and so forth. Most Americans really disagree with that. I think there's going to have to be a reckoning at some point with the people who have been in this country for a long, long time, who came in illegally, committed no crimes. I don't think we're going to want to deport all of those. And I think when it looks like we are tilting towards that, Americans begin to get alarmed. They don't like that. I have a solution for this, which is that people in the country 10, 20 years who have got a clean sheet, whatever, should be allowed to have legal status as a resident alien. And never, though, become citizens. That should be the penalty for coming in illegally. I know, and frankly, there are some Democrats talking about various pathways to citizenship or pathways to legal standing. Citizenship's off the table. But I don't think it's totally wrong to consider some approach where we could actually take some of these people and give them legal status. It'd be good for the country. But for the Democrats, this is a wedge issue. They don't want to solve it. About every 4 years, they come up with this kind of promise, DACA and other approaches. It never goes anywhere. Even when they have a majority in Congress, they don't mean it. They're insincere. They'd rather run on it and raise money for it than actually have solutions.
Good point. Yep.
She makes a point that I've been trying to drive home. Now, somewhere from what she said and what I'm thinking, maybe there's a collaboration here. I think we ought to come up with a yellow card, and the yellow card is the people who are here who are legitimately working with a job and can be verified by an employer. They ought to be given a yellow card to continue working, because I have to tell you something, folks. That part of this argument is going to get abused. There are a lot of people here working, and they're everything but a citizen, and they came, and we need to figure out a way either to identify them. Okay. Now her point is they can be a what did she say? A citizen? No.
Oh yeah.
I forget.
Migrant visitor, or migrant resident.
Right, migrant resident.
Yeah.
But not a citizen.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I think we need to look into this because there's a lot of work out there. There's a lot of work out there that Americans will not do, especially in agriculture and construction. And we got to figure out a way. And there's a lot of people here illegally who've been here a long time that are working. And they're good as people, and they're not doing anything wrong.
Follow the law.
Okay. So I really think we got to find that zone where that is taken care of. Okay. If not, people who have been here for quite a while and have worked and been good people are going to arbitrarily get picked up and thrown back over the fence because of the word illegal. I get that. I totally get that. But ICE supposedly is concentrating on the bad people that are here first, and they should. But if they start drilling down on this, it will influence the workforce, and you have to take a look at this. Now, don't write me a letter. I'm pretty strong about it. I think we ought to come up with the yellow card.
That's a good idea.
You have a green card. That's one way.
Okay.
We used to have a work permit.
Yeah, and I think it still exists, but we don't hear much about it. And
it got destroyed with all this border junk.
Okay.
It just, the whole thing got thrown under the bus.
Wow.
It needs to be recreated. Somewhere between what Liz is saying and what I'm suggesting here, we ought to figure out a way that these people can no longer have to live in fear and in the shadows. They can come out, identify, I have a job, here's my employer, the employer signs off on them, give them a yellow card, and continue working. Okay. Speaking of which.
Speaking of working, they're above us.
They're literally on our roof. So I'm not going to interrupt progress. So if it gets noisy, that's just the way it is. We'll be right back.
Just keep moving on. Keep your eyes on the prize and that word in your heart. Yeah, we'll be on.
At Sweet Tea Express, we've got you covered. Order at the counter and our friendly service staff will do the rest. Burgers, salads, sandwiches, barbecue platters, sides, and more. Smoked, grilled, and served to perfection. Sweet Tea Express. Breakfast, burgers, and barbecue.
Black Flag Armory offers top brand affordable rifles, shotguns, handguns, and gear. We also offer an array of classes emphasizing safety, self-defense, and accuracy. We strive to provide the absolute best possible experience when buying a firearm. Family friendly for every skill level. Black Flag Armory in Medford and Grants Pass. Online at blackflagarms.com or 541-499-0779. 541-499-0779. Your property demands equipment with more reliability, durability, and versatility built in. Kubota equipment is ready to get the job done right.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
Because Christ is in our relationships at home, there should be a new quality to that relationship. It doesn't always happen all at once, but it happens along the way. As we submit ourselves to the Lord, as we should become better husbands and better wives and better parents and more obedient children and better workers and better bosses. Why? Because Christ is in the equation. Christ is everything. The title of this series is Christ Above All. He's more important than anything we've talked about today, to understand that it's all about our relationship with Christ. And here's Paul telling us, you want to honor the Christ that is the center of your life. It's going to affect how you live, how you relate at home, how you relate at work, how you function as parents. Christ is a difference maker.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Mr. Bilden's neighborhood that's under construction.
Yeah, it's a construction zone.
Yeah,
welcome to my world.
Bang, bang.
Yeah.
We got guys on the roof. We got guys next door. It's interesting. I'm learning a lot. And yet I've been around construction just about all my life.
Yeah.
My dad was in it, and my first job as an adult was flying airplanes for a guy that built
We've had a lot of projects.
And we've had a lot of projects through the years.
man.
But this one takes the cake. It's way overdue. The overruns had just about put me in my grave.
But boy, when it's done.
When it's done, it'll be great. We'll have an open house. But boy, we decided to do this, and the board, and it had to be done. I mean, it's a matter of, it was just a matter of efficiency, really. But the stages you have to go through, okay? And I learned one thing, the P word.
What's that?
Patience.
How you doing with that?
I'm being forced to be patient.
Yeah. All right.
Other than that, we'll go to CBN Newswatch.
This is CBN Newswatch.
It is Wednesday, July 30th. Going to begin this half hour with the growing international calls for a Palestinian state, including from Great Britain. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says establishing such a state would be a reward to Hamas for its terrorism. And he says Hamas is the big obstacle to freeing the hostages in Gaza. Paul Petit brings us the story now. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
While the IDF continues its assault against Hamas in Gaza, Israel is seeing setbacks on the global stage. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is joining with France by saying he will recognize a Palestinian state in September unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire.
We believe that this announcement and the recognition of UK of the state of Palestine will bring justice and peace for the region.
President Trump says he did not discuss Starmer's decision when they met this week and criticized the plan.
You know, you're rewarding Hamas if you do that, and I don't think they should be rewarded. So I'm not in that camp, to be honest. We'll let you know where we are, but I am not in that camp.
The move by the UK comes amidst a UN conference pressing for a two-state solution, but only about 15 of the nations attending have expressed support for a statement calling for a Palestinian state.
It ain't gonna happen. We are aware of the fact that there are countries in Europe today with a huge Muslim populations. Sometimes it affects the policies of their governments, but this cannot and will not lead Israel to commit suicide. We won't allow a jihadist terror state in the heart of our ancient homeland. It ain't gonna happen.
As the IDF continues to apply military pressure on Hamas in Gaza, Israel's effort is on freeing the 50 Israeli hostages still remaining in captivity. Netanyahu says he's holding daily talks to make that happen.
But there is one big obstacle, and everyone knows it. That is Hamas. It is stubborn in its refusal. President Trump said it. We say it. Everyone who knows the facts, including the mediators, everyone knows it. We are not letting up. We will continue to do everything we can in one way or another.
In an historic move, the European Union and the entire Arab League, including Muslim countries, signed onto a declaration condemning the October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack and calling on Gaza to release all hostages and end its rule in Gaza. A glimmer of hope for Israel more than 20 months after the largest terrorist attack on its soil. In Jerusalem, Paul Petit, CBN News.
And our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem with more. So, Chris, what can you tell us about this declaration from the EU and Arab League?
Well, this is the declaration right here, Ephraim. It does condemn October 7th, and it does condemn Hamas. But what it still does, Ephraim, is it advocates for a two-state solution, which would include the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip. It also wants the Palestinian Authority to go ahead and control Gaza. But many people are saying the Palestinian Authority still has its pay-to-slay program that rewards terrorism. It regularly condemns Israel in its media. And the Palestinian Authority, many believe, wants a two-state solution on its way to a one-state solution and eventually eliminate Israel. And that's proposing. So this whole idea, this declaration is really proposing for many an idea that really hasn't worked for decades.
Now, Britain is rejecting the idea that recognizing a Palestinian state would reward Hamas. Why does Israel say it actually is a reward for Hamas?
Well, they say that it would reward Hamas for October 7th and reward Hamas for the current campaign right now to blame Israel for the situation in Gaza, where humanitarian aid goes in or doesn't goes in. But when it does, it's stolen by Hamas and actually hoarded by Hamas and then actually sold back to the population. So Hamas is creating a humanitarian crisis and then blaming Israel, and also creating a global media campaign of Israeli starvation of Gaza. That's also been fueled by the media and promoting the Hamas Qatar being much the sponsor of Hamas, those talking points. And what it's done is really create a diplomatic tsunami against Israel, where more and more nations are threatening, like the UK, to recognize a Palestinian state. And as Gideon Sar, Israel's foreign minister, said, some nations are appeasing their Muslim populations by blaming Israel, and it's really coming at the expense of the Jewish people and the Jewish state.
So as man is arguing this out politically and through state versus state, nation against nation, you know, all these things are going on. Yeah. Who is the real master planner of what's coming off here? I mean, where is God in all this? Well, if you believe God is in control, guess what? He's in control. And there's factors about this that we'll never know, and there's factors about this that are yet to occur, and they're divine. And we'll see how it plays out. But everybody can turn against Israel, and the Bible pretty much declares that.
Yes.
So, but in the meantime, if you look at the end of the book, they win.
Yeah.
It's pretty staggering.
Yeah, we read it.
But that's not without a battle.
That's true.
That's no reason to lay down and roll over. You have to fight your way all the way to the end. So, all right, let's take a look at an interesting person who does an interesting take on the weather.
A look at our weather from Grange Co-op. Today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, mostly sunny skies with daytime high temperatures in the upper 80s for Vancouver and Portland and near 92 for Wilsonville and McMinnville with a light and variable wind. Continuing with mostly sunny skies as we move down the Willamette Valley with high temperatures in the low 90s for Salem and Albany, near 89 in Corvallis and 90 in Eugene with a light northwest wind. Mostly sunny across central Oregon, then a chance of thunderstorms with a fire weather watch and highs near 94 in Prineville and mid to upper 80s for Bend and Sun River. Sunny and hot again in Boise, Idaho with a daytime high near 98. Along the Oregon coast, patchy fog, then sunny in mid-70s in Coos Bay, sunny in upper 60s in Port Orford, patchy fog in Brookings, then mostly sunny in mid-50s, and mostly sunny near 62 in Crescent City. Isolated showers and possibly thunderstorms across central Oregon with a fire weather watch in effect this afternoon, and daytime highs near 96 in Grants Pass and Medford, low 90s in Ashland, and near 88 in Klamath Falls. Into Northern California, scattered showers and possibly thunderstorms in low 90s in Wairika, sunny skies in Redding with a high near 97, Chico near 93, and Sacramento with a high in the upper 80s. In the Bay Area, mostly cloudy, then becoming sunny with highs near 80 in Santa Rosa and 77 in Napa. Partly sunny in San Francisco with a high in the mid-60s. And today in San Jose, becoming sunny with a high near 79. It's a look at your Wednesday weather from Grange Co-op.
All right, a beautiful shot of southern Oregon, and that's the color of dry, and it is the makings of what could be very bumpy afternoons.
Yeah, fire weather watch in a number of places, including right there where we're looking.
Yeah, so we could see some buildups today, so be ready and be careful out there.
What is that number up there? 236? What's...
Huh?
I was looking at the heading there.
Oh, well, that's not the...
Two...
I can't see.
I can't see. It's too small.
I don't. You know what? That could be.
It is.
Okay, that could be, because that's moving to the south.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to get. I need bigger numbers. Okay.
You know what I'm going to get you?
What?
I'm going to get you.
You're going to get me a ticket out of here, aren't you?
No, I'm going to get you a compass, and I'm going to put it right there.
Yes.
It's almost like, see, now we have this little thing going on.
Yeah.
Does it still work?
Yeah, it does. Hit it. Now hit it one more time.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So I think what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Shirley.
And I'm going to put a compass there. And
I need it. Moving on.
I'll guess that you and I are we're facing just a tad south.
A little southwest?
We're west south.
West south. Okay. All right.
Okay, we're probably around 265. Okay.
Right on.
All right.
Nicknamed after an insect and one of the most produced cars ever, the last classic VW Beetle rolled off the assembly line on this day in history.
On July 30th, 2003, a piece of automotive history came to a quiet close. At a Volkswagen plant in Puebla, Mexico, the last classic VW Beetle, number 21,529,464, rolled off the line. Painted baby blue and part of a 3,000-unit final edition, it was sent straight to VW's museum in Wolfsburg, Germany. The Beetle's story began in the 1930s, born from a request by Adolf Hitler for an affordable car for the German people. Designed by Ferdinand Porsche, the so-called KDF Wagen debuted in 1939 and was quickly nicknamed the Beetle for its rounded shape. After World War II, it became a global phenomenon. By the 1960s, it was America's top-selling import, fueled by clever advertising, a starring role in The Love Bug, and even a cameo on the Beatles' Abbey Road album cover. By the late 1970s, stricter safety standards and changing tastes pushed the classic Beetle out of the U.S., and by 2003, out of production entirely. An icon at rest, but never forgotten.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, the car that would not stop in the rain had poor heating and the windshield always fogged up.
But you know what?
It was a winner.
It always ran. It was easy to repair, air-cooled. And you know that plant in Puebla, Mexico? Yeah. It was like into a little world of its own. It was the only place that produced the classic Bug at that time. They were the last ones. As a result, I saw a report, there are a lot of old VWs in Mexico.
Yeah.
And they keep them going. They say it's easy to keep them running. They're basic. And so you see a lot of those old old ones. It was my first car. It was an amazing car. I kind of wish I still had it. But, you know, I think part of this was, too, we saw where Volkswagen got their origins in 1930s Germany under the Nazis. But I think it's a testament to what happened after World War II. Instead of punishing Germany like what happened in the Versailles Treaty in World War I, where they put economic sanctions and reparations on them to the point where they couldn't recover, the Marshall Plan and the U.S. intervention helped businesses like Volkswagen go from being state-owned to being privately owned, and to help flourish, to help grow their economy, so people weren't, suffering after that. So I think the whole thing is a success story.
One of the great scenes is a guy drives up to this very nice hotel in his bug, and he gets out and he goes to the registration desk and tells the bellhop to get his luggage. So it takes a little bit, and he shows up and he's got the engine. Because
it was in the trunk.
It was in the trunk. It was one of the first cars that had the engine in the rear.
It was.
Okay.
Yes.
So the guy opened up the trunk, took the engine out, and brought it.
I love it.
Okay. Well, since we're kind of in a little bit of a levity mood here this morning, comedian Andy Andrews shares about singing Amazing Grace and getting spanked for it.
My dad was a minister of music. Do you know that one time my dad asked me, I was like 7 years old, and my dad asked me to sing Amazing Grace in front of the whole congregation. And I did it, and I got a spanking for it. I bet you'd like to hear that story, wouldn't you? Because, see, I remember getting asked to do it, but 7 years old, I mean, I had heard that song so much. And I didn't really know what it meant, but it was boring to me because it was just over and over. They'd sing it every week. And so when my dad said, would you do Amazing Grace in front of the congregation? I knew the words, but I was kind of bored with the tune. And so, but when he got me up there, I was up there, and right before I sang, I remembered that I had noticed the words to Amazing Grace would fit perfectly into my mother's favorite song, which was Ghost Riders in the Sky. So I said, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Praise the Lord! Let's hear it for Jesus, the Holy Ghost Rider in the sky. And so, you know how how you're laughing right now. The congregation did that too, but my daddy wasn't laughing, and he kind of went over to me, and he leaned down and he said, that wasn't what I was expecting. So try it again. And I thought, ooh. Well, I had also noticed that the words to Amazing Grace would fit perfectly into the music of a song that I heard my grandfather play on his record player behind the barn. I didn't really know what the song was about, but it was called House of the Rising Sun. And I also knew, I thought at that moment, my mom likes Elvis, so I thought I'd throw a little of that in there too. And when my dad backed away, I said, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. And when my dad took a step toward me, I took a step back and I said, thank you very much.
We have to laugh at ourselves. We have to laugh at ourselves. All right, we'll be right back.
That's good.
No, I'll never leave your side. And don't go thinking you're the only one that can get.
The right cleaning company matters. Choose Dust Plus Cleaning and Carpet Care, a family-owned company proudly serving Grants Pass and nearby communities for over 25 years. We're passionate about delivering the best, whether it's carpets, using purified water for no window spots, or carefully washing solar panels. We're committed to superb customer service from start to finish. Radiant spaces from local professionals. Request a free quote today.
21,000 interviews, that's a big milestone. It's huge. My first adventure into anything that would have been political was the late Senator Mark Hatfield. And he said, I'm available for an interview. And so I ran into the studio and I interrupted the programming and I flipped the switch and went on live on the air with him. We had an interesting exchange. And that was kind of my first political interview of anybody that was of notoriety.
With the words, "Behold, a sower went out to sow," Jesus begins the legendary Matthew 13 parable of the sower about God's word and draws attention to the need for good soil in order to bear fruit. This question of good soil motivates and challenges every Christian parent. Can good soil be nurtured in the lives of our children? A similar question was asked by the ancient Greeks concerning virtue. Drawing upon classical traditions like the trivium and the liberal arts, classical Christian schools are coming alongside Christian parents to do just that, nurture good soil and virtue. Now in our 8th year serving Jackson County, Knox Academy, the Rogue Valley's own K-12 classical Christian school, is relocating to downtown Medford in order to better assist parents as they educate their children. We are currently enrolling students for the 25-26 school year. Visit us at knoxmedford.com for more information. Invest in a future with a strong connection to the past for good soil, deep roots, and fruit at knoxmedford.com.
Okay, good morning to you. 10 minutes before the top of the hour, I had a story earlier how the chief of the EPA has unwound. We got construction going on. Okay, well, there we go. Anyway, we'll just go to Gregory Whitestone. He'll tell us all about it.
It's not going to be just immediately eliminated. There's, from what we understand, there will be a 45-day comment period. And after that 45 days, they'll do what the others didn't do, is they'll consider the comments. And the CO2 Coalition, where I'm executive director, we're drafting a science-based comment to support this. One of the things that's interesting, too, you could say, well, what happens in 3.5 years and there's a President Gavin Newsom in charge? Can't he just get it back? No, he can't. And that's because two important rulings from the Supreme Court in 2024 said that you must consider, when you're making important rules like this, each agency must consider all of the available important data. And EPA, when they made this ruling, ignored all of the science that went against the decision that CO2 is a pollutant. What they said was, if you don't consider all of the science, the wording they used was the ruling is arbitrary and capricious, those two words. And by definition, if they were arbitrary and capricious, did not consider all of the data, all of the science, then it was an illegal ruling. So that's all changed. It was almost a year ago when those two Supreme Court decisions came down. So things are a little bit different now. It's not going to be as easy to get this back. And so in 45 days of comments, it would come in. They'll be able to basically repeal this.
Okay. The airplane's flying through here. Okay, look out. Okay, it's getting worse. Sorry about that. Can you guys knock it off for just 5 minutes? Yeah, okay. Let's go to airport stuff. The airport story.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, you know this.
Yeah.
And I did see it reported, but I'm going to see it again as I go into the TSA checkout line. But things are getting a lot smoother when you check in to take your next flight. Check this out.
One of the least favorite things about airline travel has now come to an end: the dreaded shoe removal at the TSA security checkpoint. In early July, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced that travelers flying domestically can now keep their shoes on at TSA checkpoints, officially ending the nearly 20-year-old shoes-off rule. This shift is being hailed as a traveler-friendly move that aims to cut wait times, reduce confusion, and modernize the TSA experience without compromising safety, thanks to cutting-edge screening technology. The original rule dates back to 2006 following the Richard Reed shoe bomber incident in December 2001, when explosives hidden in shoes sparked new security mandates. Now, what's old news abroad has become America's future, a simpler, more efficient process. While most travelers leave their shoes on now, TSA agents may still ask individuals to remove footwear if additional screening is needed. So here's to faster lines, less hassle, and a TSA process that steps forward while letting you keep your shoes on.
Okay. See, if you don't take your shoes off, we grind your feet to the floor.
I bet
we grind your feet. Sorry, folks. We actually got construction going in. Hey, guys, can you give us 5? No, it ain't gonna happen. Well, I don't know. You guys got a ministry moment in there?
Yeah, do you have anything?
Got one?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow.
When you get lonely, no, I'll never leave your side. And don't go thinking you're the only one that can get it right. Yeah, you got my love, 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 love down in your soul. Yeah, you got my love, 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 and I won't let you go.
Any realtor will tell you if he goes to do an estimate, an appraisal on a piece of property, it doesn't matter how much you've spent on it. It matters not how much you painted it. It doesn't matter how much you have enjoyed it. What will that appraiser tell you it's worth? What somebody will pay for it. Is that not what determines worth? I mean, as far as he's concerned, what will somebody pay for this? And on the basis of that, he makes his appraisal. You want to know how much you're worth? Go to bloody Calvary. See Jesus Christ in agony and blood dying upon that cross. But Peter tells us, you were not redeemed with corruptible things such as silver and gold, but with the precious blood of Christ as a lamb without spot and without blemish. Put your ear on the beating heart of God and hear God say, I love you and I want you. Come down lower and see Jesus dying there upon the cross. Why? Because he wants your soul. He paid that price for you. That's how desirable you are to him.
Where big ideas grow.
Hey, this is Ed, co-owner of Visiting Angels. To continue to serve our seniors, we need more caregivers with a heart to serve. Our mission statement is honoring the art of giving, which means we honor you, the caregiver. We know it's our people that make Visiting Angels the best in-home care provider and a great place to work. Come be our next amazing caregiver. Give us a call or apply online. At Visiting Angels, we're committed to you because we honor the art of giving.
If you enjoy the Dove TV, tell a friend or family member. If they can't receive a signal, the Dove streams worldwide on Roku and Apple TV, plus online at thedove.us. Help encourage someone who needs hope. Spread the word about the Dove TV.
Where does the Bible teach that a whole generation of believers around the world will be taken en masse into God's presence at the time of the rapture? Today, we will take you step by step through what the Bible reveals will happen at the moment of the rapture and how this mighty act of power will lead the world into the future events the Bible predicts will happen in the last days.
Join me for the John Ankerberg Show weekdays at 4 o'clock right here on the Dove TV.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
He's giving them a word of encouragement. He wants to give them a word of help. He says, "Come to me, all ye who are heavy laden and you're borne down and you feel the weight of life itself." And he says, "I will give you rest." Here's Jesus, the living Son of God, the sovereign God of this universe, now seated at the Father's right hand. And he says, "All power has been given to me in heaven and earth." So we know that whatever burden you and I carry, he is able to deal with it. Because the Bible's asked a couple of times, is there anything too hard for God? How can anything be too hard for God, who is sovereignly in control of every single solitary thing, who is omniscient, knowing all things, omnipresent, all things are in his presence, and he has the power to handle every circumstance of life. And what is he saying to us? Come to me.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
You're watching the Dove TV, encouraging and informative for Bend and Central Oregon. Seen on KBND 14 and these Dove TV affiliates.
Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. And of course, we are all watching the various things as it relates to the economy. And are things changing for the better is the big question. And what will they be now and in the very near future? Well, it's always an honor to have the professor with us. And I'm talking about Professor Michael Busler. He's a public policy analysis and professor of finance at Stockton University there in New Jersey. We're always honored when he gives us time. He does have his own website, muckrack.com/Michael Busler. And there's a picture of the landing page. Very resourceful as well. Professor, good to see you, friend. How are you, man?
Always a pleasure to see you, Perry. Thanks for having me.
Gosh, were we catching you at your house today? Where are you?
Well, I'm working out of an office in my home, yeah.
Good for you. Thanks for your time, Professor. We value it greatly. Hey, is it true we had a budget surplus in June?
What a piece of good news that was. So it looks like, now I hope that continues into the future. I don't expect it to, and maybe it will. We all know what a terrible problem we have with an annual deficit that's over $2 trillion and a public debt in total that's over $36 trillion. President Trump has been doing everything he can to try to get government spending down. He formed, you recall, the Department of Government Efficiency that found hundreds of billions of dollars worth of waste. Politics being what they were, he was only able to get $9 billion decrease in spending through Congress recently. But in areas where he can exercise his discretion and simply not spend money by operating departments with fewer people, operating them more efficiently, he was able to do that. So spending in June was below what had been budgeted. At the same time, his tariff policy, which many of the pundits have said will cause runaway inflation and push the economy into recession, they've been wrong. Inflation has nudged up only slightly, and the tariffs have collected over $100 billion so far. So the increase in revenue from the tariffs and Trump's doing everything he can to try to reduce spending not only eliminated the deficit, it actually created a small surplus for the month of June. As much as we can continue that is extremely positive news. Again, I don't expect it to continue every month into the future, but if he can come close to balancing and even running a small surplus in any of the months, it's a big plus for the economy.
So this isn't a fluke?
No. No, he's pushing down spending. The problem with cutting spending is every politician will tell you they're in favor of cutting spending. But then when you start to cut spending in some areas that will affect the politicians' constituents, they say, no, we aren't going to allow that. So cutting spending is very difficult. Again, Trump is doing what he can from the executive side, and he'll keep doing that going into the future. Look at an example. When Musk looked at Medicaid, he found over 10 million people collecting Medicaid that either weren't eligible or were eligible, but they were able, physically and mentally able-bodied to go out and earn income and pay for their own insurance. So President Trump said, look, we're going to cut Medicaid. These people that shouldn't be getting it, we're not going to pay for anymore. And if you're able-bodied, you have to work at least 20 hours a week to be able to collect Medicaid. Some people say, well, I can't find a job. What am I going to do? There are jobs available. But even if that's the case, Trump said, look, just do 20 hours of volunteer work a week. At least contribute something, and you'll be eligible for Medicaid. So I think that's very reasonable cuts. Now, on the other side, people said, oh, wait a minute, you can't do this. A lot of my constituents will go off Medicaid. It's horrible. You're slamming the poor. And it was nearly impossible to get any Medicaid cuts through. So the idea now is to try to reduce government spending, increase tax revenue through tariffs, and also by growing the economy. Trump kept tax rates low. That should increase economic growth. And even though the rate is low, you're taxing a larger base, so tax revenue should increase. We'll see what happens going forward, but that's what President Trump is trying to do.
Okay, there's a lot to talk about here. Just to stay with it just for a moment, if I understand it correctly, the projected deficit for 2025 was somewhere around 1.8 trillion.
Right.
Now that you have a surplus in June, is it possible that that could be a whole lot less?
Well, it's on a fiscal year. So the fiscal year runs from October to the end of September. So we're 2/3 of the way through the fiscal year. But if Trump can continue to run a surplus or even balance the budget for the next 3-4 months, you'll see that 1.8 trillion go down.
Mm-hmm.
How much remains to be seen, but at least we'll go down, and we're moving in the right direction. You can't fix this overnight, but we're moving in the right direction, and that's what's important.
There's an old saying, the way you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And the $9 billion reduction that went House to the Senate, back to the House, and got approved, it's $9 billion up against several trillion, but it's a start.
Exactly.
We've never seen a $9 billion government reduction bill before.
We've never seen any government spending reduction bill. So this is a start. It is frustrating. Elon Musk went in there and spent all that time and took all that bad press, and it hurt his company. And he found hundreds of billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse. The best politically we're able to do was get a $9 billion reduction. Musk was so frustrated by this, he's ready to start his own political party. I understand his frustration. And from a fiscal standpoint, we should be able to cut a lot more out of spending. Politically, though, it's very difficult to do. So this $9 billion is not a huge amount of money compared to the $1.8 trillion deficit. But as you just mentioned, it's a step in the right direction, and it's a first step, and let's keep going like this.
The Supreme Court weighed in and said the president could go ahead and begin to reduce the size of the Department of Education. That is historic as well. Do you think the DOE is bound for the ash heap?
I certainly do. And it's something where we spend billions of dollars annually, and it's not producing any results. So President Trump said, look, instead of having a Department of Education that decides what should be and what shouldn't be in curriculum for every state in the union, states are different. Let's take that money, give it to the state, and let them best decide how to use that money. They're more in tune to what's happening in their state rather than on a national basis. And there's just differences in Mississippi and California and New Mexico, Nevada. They all have differences in their educational needs and how they educate the children. So let the states do this. Get rid of the federal bureaucracy. It will save billions of dollars, and it will come up with a system that's more efficient. Look at our education system. Our students' proficiency measured in 4th and 8th grade has been going down in both reading and arithmetic has been going down nearly every year for a decade or so, or even longer. We have to reverse that. Education is extremely important. We need our children to get the best education possible. Let the states do that. It will come out with a better product and cost taxpayers less money.
Do you think there'll be further cuts with U.S. aid?
So this is a tough one. A lot of what Musk found was that millions and billions were being spent on ridiculous things. There was a Sesame Street, $20 billion for a Sesame Street in Iraq. There were studies done on mice that had no real meaning or any kind of significance. So he said, let's cut this way down. Now, there are some positive things that the USAID does, but we have to keep asking ourselves that they are very positive things. We like to continue to do it, but we don't have the money to do it. So some of these things that from a humanitarian standpoint, we probably wouldn't want to see cut may have to be cut because we can't continue to spend way more money than we're bringing in tax revenue, and President Trump will not raise tax rates on anybody. Americans are already paying enough taxes. It's counterproductive to raise tax rates any higher. It will slow economic activity. He just passed that big, beautiful bill, which keeps tax rates at a relatively low level. But some of the cuts are going to be painful. Every one of these cuts, every program, you find people that can justify it. We have to do this and we have to do that, but we just don't have enough money to do all those things. So we've got to cut somewhere.
Do you think in the long term, Professor, that a light item veto would give the president power to cut some of this nonsense out of the middle?
I favored this light item veto forever. I think Reagan was the first one to bring it up. I think this is a great idea. There's so much pork in the budget, and you either, when it gets to the president's desk, you either sign it or don't sign it. If he could sign it, but then veto specific line items, that would help reduce government spending. Now, if he vetoed something and the majority of both the House and the Senate said, oh, no, we have to have that, then they can override the veto. But at least the president should be able to cut fat out of the budget, this waste, fraud, and abuse. He should be able to cut it out, even if it's just a line here and a line there. So I've been in favor of this line item veto forever.
Yeah, good. All right, so I'm still your student, so I'm still learning. Someday I'll pass your class.
Oh, very well.
The big, beautiful bill, it did raise federal spending to $7.3 trillion while giving tax cuts. How does this work?
So it extended the tax cuts passed in 2017, implemented in 2018. Now, in my opinion, the tax cut was very fair. President Trump said, except for people that have state and local tax deductions that they may lose, except for those people, everybody's taxes are getting cut 10%. We're not going to treat anybody any differently than anybody else. Everybody will see a 10% reduction in their taxes. Now, which again, I think is fair. The Democrats said, wait a minute. You have some average American only getting $500 and some wealthy guy getting $1 million tax break. And that's true. Why? Because the average person pays $5,000, let's say $5,000 in taxes, so you get a 10% cut, that's $500. If somebody pays $10 million in taxes, he gets a 10% cut, he's going to get $1 million. So dollar amounts would be larger, but it's because people are paying so much more in taxes. People don't agree with me, but I think that was a fair tax cut. Everybody, whoever pays taxes, we're cutting your taxes 10%.
Do you think, Professor, one quick question before I take a break, do you think somewhere down the line, I mean, I realize in the big, beautiful bill, there's some of the things that we asked for, no more tax and Social Security tax or tips, overtime. Those are wonderful starts. But there's a couple of other things out there. The inheritance tax and capital gains. Do you think they'll ever be addressed?
I certainly hope so. The inheritance tax thing, it's and in many states. I live in New Jersey, and the inheritance tax is relatively large. A lot of people I know are moving to Florida as they get older just to avoid that. Capital gains, though, is one, if we look at past history, the lower capital gain tax rate leads to more economic activity and ultimately more tax revenue. What's the example? 1997, Bill Clinton reduced the capital gains rate from 28 to 20%. Revenue from capital gains taxes went up. The economy grew at over a 4% annual rate for the next 4 years. And in each of those next 4 years, we had a surplus in the government budget. I think the capital gains rate should go down to 15% for all capital gains. I think that would bring in more revenue, spur economic activity, and lead to much higher growth.
Yeah, the only offset to that is what the states would do with capital gains. Here in Oregon, we have one of the highest, and it's just you look at this and you go, you can't pass the family farm or company on to the next generation. So you got to figure out a way. It's horrible. I mean, you got to figure out other means like LLCs and everything else so that it doesn't really change hands but stays going around. I mean, I realize there's those instruments there, but just fundamentally, if capital gains were reduced, to your point, not only would it boost things, but moreover, it save the small business, the small farm.
Yeah, a lot of these big farms get passed on from generation to generation, and you're right, they should be in the name of an LLC now to try to get around this. But if it goes from one generation to the next, and somebody bought a farm for a small amount of money, worked it for 50 years, it's worth a lot of money, pass on to your heirs, there's that huge capital gain that has to be paid. The heirs don't have the money. They oftentimes have to sell off part of the family farm just to pay the taxes. So we need to do something about capital gains. We need to create more capital. And by lowering the capital gains tax rate, we create more capital. We have a capital-intensive economy now.
Good. That
would help economic growth.
All right, let me take a quick break. Check out the professor's website, muckrack.com/Michael Bustler, and you can keep track of them there. And we'll come back. I have some interesting questions for him.
Finding that next great series to binge watch is fun, but your neck, shoulders, and body don't count that as me time. Hi, I'm Tamara Miller, owner of Organic Element Spa, and I invite you to put down the remote, get off the couch, and schedule yourself some real me or we time with your favorite service, like one of our many massages, couples massages, or facials. Your health, safety, and comfort are always top priority with us at Organic Element Spa. We can't wait to see you. Book your appointment today.
It's your time to fly. Let's make it affordable. We are your airport. Fly MFR.
Chris Silva understands your home and your commercial buildings are two of the largest investments most people make in a lifetime. One is for your family, the other is to support your family financially. That is why Chris Silva Painting goes the extra mile to protect both homes and commercial buildings with proper painting preparation and high-quality primers and paints. Serving Southern Oregon since 2006, this family-owned and operated business has painted over 1,000 homes. Chris Silva Painting offers an industry-leading 5-year warranty that covers materials and labor on all painting projects projects work for both residential and commercial buildings, both interior and exterior painting. Chris and his crew are courteous, they are efficient, organized, timely, and clean. Chris Silva Painting also offers military discounts. At Chris Silva Painting, our mission statement is to bring Christ's heart and principles to our customers and our job sites. We do that with honesty, integrity, and hard work. We don't cut corners, we paint them. CCB number 176097. Chris Silva Painting, 541-890-3960.
Always an honor to have with us Professor Michael Busler. He's the Public Policy Analysis and Professor of Finance at Stockton University in New Jersey. The professor has his own website, muckrack.com/Michael Busler. There's a picture of the landing page. So honored to have him with us when we call. Professor, back to the big, beautiful bill. No, excuse me, back to the $9 billion cut bill that finally made it through and got the president's signature. 1.1 billion of the 9 billion was against NPR and PBC, public broadcasting. This is huge. What's your take on that?
So the president felt that some of these public broadcasting outlets were not being objective, intended to be in public broadcasting. So what'll happen is President Trump said, look, I kept everybody's taxes low. We now have more disposable income. So instead of me raising your taxes and using that money for public broadcasting, I'm going to keep taxes low. People have more income, disposable income. For people who watch those things, they can donate and subscribe to them, and they can pay that money directly by their free choosing, rather than have the government take it all and say we're gonna pay for it. Be a little bit of a bumpy road for public broadcasting, I think, in the short term. But I think they're gonna work it out. I think their donations will go up. People will say, "Look, I depend on this. I listen to it daily. If government funding got cut, and my taxes stay low, I'm going to take some of that money I saved on paying taxes and pay it directly to public broadcasting, because I want to see that continue. No. Enough Americans are going to want to see that continue that I think they'll be able to raise enough money privately to keep that going.
Yeah, it puts them in the competitive realm of the rest of us broadcasters. And I think that's where it should have been all along. But didn't their bias kind of self-destruct them?
The bias had a lot to do with it. I mean, they're just supposed to present to the public an unbiased view, report the news, give an unbiased view. They were so slanted to one side that President Trump said, look, I'm funding people that are trying to take me down, and it doesn't make any sense to do that. Yeah. So he cut off the spending and the funding, said, let people who watch it fund it, and they should be okay. And maybe because NPR and things have to compete now, maybe they'll be a little more fair in their reporting.
Yeah, I get it, because that's the world we live in. And I think that the other thing that could come from this long term will be a reclassification of the licensing of stations in America, because these are what they call NCE, which are non-commercial educational channels. And I suspect in time that could be reclassified, where in order to keep public broadcasting alive, yeah, donations is one thing, but let them compete in the commercial realm. And that could be the next one. So we'll see how that goes. I want to come back to Elon Musk. I think you explained it very, very well, Professor, that he was just frustrated beyond measure to see the waste. And being the impatient person that he is, that he wanted to see it cleaned up and fixed faster. But so he gets a little ticked off, and he goes out and he wants to form the American Party. Where do you think about this, or is it just symbolic protest?
Forming a new political party is extremely difficult, not impossible. I look at when they had the Whig Party, I think back in the early 1800s, and eventually that left, and we had just the Democrats and the Republicans. I think our two-party system works best as a two-party system. I look at some of these other countries around the world where they have dozens of parties and you have to form coalitions, and it's hard to really get things done. So I think the two-party system is the way to go. on the other hand, I completely understand Musk's frustration. He went in there, he looked at systems that were from the 40s and rather from the 60s and 70s that had those old Radio Shack computers running things. And he said, look, you can eliminate 90% of the workforce, put in modern systems, modern hardware, modern software, have something that operates much more efficiently and at significantly lower cost. And he found, as I say, hundreds of billions of dollars in this, and yet they can only pass a $9 billion cut. Musk must be saying to himself, why did I just waste those 3 or 4 months? They're burning my company up. My sales have been clobbered. People hate me. I'm trying to do something I think was patriotic, trying to save the country from financial ruin, and I did it. And yet nobody will implement anything except for $9 billion.
No, I totally get that. I think it also could be that not recognizing how slow the system works. When the affluent can make things happen a whole lot faster.
Yes, they can. Look, there's politics here.
Yeah.
And as I said, you try to cut something, and someone says, "Wait a minute, you can't cut that. It's going to affect my constituents. They aren't going to vote for me. I'm not going to get this passed." And practically every cut he wanted to make, somebody had a problem with.
Yeah.
And you need a majority, at least a majority in both houses, to get anything passed.
Yeah, it's. I get it. I get the frustration. I want to come back to something else, to your world, academia, just for a moment. We're seeing universities really get put under the microscope, asking the big question, what's really going on, everything else. A lot of funding is being withheld. Do you think the integrity of the original mission of some great institutions, let's say Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, others, can be restored, or is it too far gone?
I think it can be restored, and it has to be restored. These are great institutions with scholars that are making great contributions. They just kind of lost their way. Instead of being objective as a researcher is supposed to be, they started to favor one view over another. And it got to the point where the students going through the schools, they said, well, the way I'm looking at things is not objective. What the left is telling me, I guess that's the way it's supposed to be, and that's not. What's supposed to happen in colleges and universities? Students go there to learn some specific skills, depending on what their major is. But the primary focus is to teach critical thinking skills. So when somebody is confronted with a problem, they can figure out what the best solution is. When I teach, if somebody asks me a question, I say, well, here's what one side says, and here's what the other side says. Now, they ask me my opinion. I try to keep it out of it. I said, look, here's one view, here's the other. What do you think makes the most sense? You figure it out. So the way the schools are going, they present one side and never present the other side. So the students aren't using critical thinking skills, or sort of regurgitating what's given. So they've got to get back to focusing on those critical thinking skills. And with every argument, they have to present both sides and teach the students how to critically think so they can make their own decisions as to which one makes the most sense.
There's two things I would add to that. I think critical thinking to be restored is clearly probably the basis. But what about just civil discourse and free speech?
Look, our country was founded on free speech. Someone should be able to, whether they agree with another party or not, they should be able to give their views. The school I teach is a university now. When I started there years ago, it was a liberal arts college. And 90% of the faculty had a very liberal view. And particularly before I was tenured, if I would give some of my views, it was looked down upon, and I had to be very careful because these people were going to approve my tenure application. So I just, for 6 years until I got to tenure, I just kept quiet. And then once I got to tenure, I started to speak up. So it's very important that we encourage free speech. If somebody has an idea and has something to say, they should be able to say that.
Yeah.
That's how democracy works.
You're fascinating. Thank you, sir, for your time. We value it greatly. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out his website, muckrack.com/Michael Busler. And very informative. Look forward to many, many visits. Let's hope that what happened in June continues, huh?
I really hope so. And thanks for having me, Perry. I always enjoy being here.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you soon.
The Lennox iComfort S30 thermostat can sense changes in your environment. It even knows when you come and go. So now your home's most important system is also the smartest.
Metal Masters can give you the smartest home comfort system available. It knows when you're away and adjusts when allergens and humidity get uncomfortable. Trust Metal Masters to provide perfect air for your family.
Lennox. Air is life. Make it perfect.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
Put your gold in an envelope, mail it. Hopefully you get a check. No. Father and son jewelry, bring your gold in, we weigh it, we check it, we make you the offer.
Or turn your something old into something new. Whether it's an idea, a picture, or a piece you want to duplicate, we can melt it down and make it for you.
If you find your perfect piece in store, trade your something old for something new, and you always get a little extra.
Visit Father and Son Jewelry, 5 generations of family in Medford.
Hi, welcome back. This is the segment where I hop on the couch and I get psychoed by Bill Gallagher. He's with us in the house. Anyway, he's founder of Teamworks, and he is a pastoral counselor. Teamworks, his company will come to your company or your ministry and help you with all kinds of staff issues, good, bad, or indifferent. And he does an excellent job, and a lot of companies and organizations throughout the area use him. You can go to teamworks/works.com. There's a picture of the landing page. By the way, you may just want to get on his email list, because every once in a while he sends out something that's pretty good.
Yeah,
you send out what do you send out? A little,
kind of newsletters.
A little newsletter once in a while.
Yeah, I send them out. I got a little YouTube channel too. I don't know if you knew that.
You do?
About 25 videos. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, just little snippets.
What's the name of it? Bill Gallagher or Teamworks?
Straight Talk with Bill Gallagher.
Straight Talk with Bill Gallagher. Yeah. That's kind of like what we do here. All right, Straight Talk with Bill Gallagher, and that's on YouTube.
YouTube, yeah.
Okay, well, listen, the subject we take on today, let me just give you a couple of disclaimers. Number one, we'll never finish it.
That's true.
Number two, it is more than any 2 people can take in at one time.
Yes.
Okay, the subject is, why does God often bring together opposites in marriage? Personalities, upbringing, genders, parenting, households, economic status. Why does God take almost total opposites and put them together?
Yeah.
Is there an answer?
Well, that's why I'm coming here to you. I knew that you have all the answers, and then I'll just spring off of that.
I'll weigh in as you go down the road here.
Yeah. Well, it's very, very interesting that the Lord does do that, and it hit me. I've been doing pastoral counseling for 40 years, and it just hit me this last year that, I jokingly say God played a sick joke on us because, let's look at gender differences, okay?
two genders. There is so little we have in common, men with women. So little. It's almost laughable. You might have the same kids. You might live in the same location. You might live in the same country. You might work at the same place. You might speak the same language. But that's about where it ends.
Okay.
We think differently. We feel differently. We're encouraged differently. We're hurt differently. And, you know, that's kind of an indication of what God is after. For example, you've heard this before. You've probably told people this before. That if you're married or you have a partner and you're the man and you offend them and hurt them deeply, they, of course, frequently can react in ways that make us very uncomfortable. And then they want a hug. Now, that's about the furthest thing from a man's brain to do, is to hug your partner when there's fire in their eyes. Most guys, this is a gender thing, will say, let's wait till we can cool down and then we can talk again. But they want a hug right in the middle of a fire. Okay? No. And there's other things. We, if our wife asks us as men, or our partner, or our daughter, or anything, I'm talking gender.
Okay.
And we...
Male, female.
Male, female.
Well, the society says there's 114.
Yeah.
But God says there's 2.
God says there are 2. I'm going with God.
Okay.
I'll always say that. I don't care what anyone else says. I'm going with the Creator, the one who made the 2.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
I'm going to go with the one who made the 2.
Okay, you're in safe territory then.
Good. And I would trust that more people would think about that.
Yeah.
But what was the question again? You got me off.
No, you were telling me about how opposite the two can be, and how you can have fire in your eyes and want a hug.
Yeah, and for men, you know, oh, that's right. If a woman,
we're going too fast for you, Bill. You want me to slow down?
Asking us how they look in this dress.
Yeah.
Or what we think about how they handled that situation. And a man, of course, generally we're kind of bottom line answers and bullet points and see ourselves as very accurate. So we give them an accurate answer that is deeply offensive to them. But at least we were telling the truth. Well, that's the problem, you know. So we don't understand. We don't understand. Just now we're on the gender piece. We do not understand, hardly at all, the nature of the other genders.
Okay.
And so God brings man and woman together and a husband and wife.
Okay.
So now why would he do that?
Okay, so I just want to make sure the playing field stays even here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's equal. Women have to understand that men are different too.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Well, and that's why the Bible, and people might be thinking, why are you coming up with this subject? Because in the very beginning, God set the stage for differences in men and women.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the number one thing you'll discover if you do any kind of, you're a professional counselor. I've done a lot of lay counseling. It's one of the first things you run into at the very beginning, that they don't understand that the other is the opposite sex.
Yeah.
It's pretty fundamental.
Yeah, pretty fundamental. And hardly, on paper, very little in common.
Okay.
Very little in common.
Okay.
Yet, God puts them together, and I'll just talk about the context of marriage. God puts them together in the context of marriage. And he tells the men, he gives us different functional roles. Very clearly. Now, you have to go to the scriptures to verify this. If you don't believe in the scriptures, you can just write off everything I say.
Yeah.
You got to know the scriptures and God's heart and why he did this.
Right.
Okay. Men are to be respected by their wives. And someone would say, well, what if my husband's not a respectable person? Or he's not treating me in a good way? Well, there's two ways to look at that. One, there's two kinds of respects. One respect can earn or lose respect. And one, I think this is the biblical principle. One respect is given because of the role. The other respect is given because of behavior or not.
Okay, so one's the role, one is the position.
Yeah, position.
And the other one's performance.
Exactly. That's the best way to say it. So
that's why you need me on the show with you.
Yeah, this is why I come here, so I can say it the right way.
Okay.
So, the Lord wants us to get behind the eyes of the other partner, your partner, and see things from their perspective. And we got to get out of our own head as men and as women. Get out of your own head, ladies, and start doing what the Lord's calling us to do, which is actually not natural.
Yeah.
It has to be generated by the Holy Spirit. It's not natural. He tells women to respect. The word is submit. It's an S word for a lot of women. A lot of people don't understand it. I use the word respect instead. And the Bible says respect too. Respect their husbands, and we are to unconditionally love our wives. Like Christ said, church, love the church. Can't do that on our own. Right. Don't even know where to begin.
Right.
But it's still our call and our role. So that's just the gender thing. And so I find husbands and wives, they generally are in the battlefield at the point of disagreeing with each other's point, or not necessarily belief, but each other's conviction.
So
that's where we get into fights. Who's right, who's wrong?
Okay, we got a lot of other factors that move in here, background, parenting, all that. But let me just ask you a little bit of a question here. In your experience of marriage counseling, when do these differences begin to show up? Is it 3 years, 5 years, 7 years? They call it the 7-year itch. I don't know if that's true or not. But somewhere in there's a pattern somewhere in there, these things begin to surface.
Yeah.
Do you see it?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
For some people, it comes right at the altar.
That's pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's been said before that actually the marriages die at the altar because of the different approach. This is a perfect example of what we're talking about, the differences. Okay?
Yeah.
For men, the altar signifies conquering one of the goals of our life.
Whoa.
And we just check that off.
Oh, gosh.
For a woman, it's the first day of the rest of their life. Yeah. So many people start struggling after they say, I do. Because they're coming at it from a totally different standpoint, and that's important to know. Yeah. I mean, that's how we start, basically. And so I think it's about learning, how to go to the Lord and say, Lord, reveal to me the things that I need to change in reference to my spouse, vice versa. I've got to have good boundaries in all of this. It's not like one person always gets their way all the time.
Yeah.
So we're just, on this point, we are so different. We need to learn our wife's or spouse's perspective. We need to learn how to have the art, I call it the art of admitting that there's a better way than our way. Have you ever heard the phrase, my way or the highway? That's a setup question.
Yeah, that's rhetorical.
Well, if you think about that, that's kind of narrow.
Yeah, well, I think it's...
it has a couple different meanings, but it's kind of narrow.
When you get people in your office that are at a point of divorce, that's pretty much the mindset.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, when they reach the point of divorce, it's my way or your... It's my way, not your way.
Yeah.
I understand. So let me ask you this. What about family backgrounds?
Oh.
I understand gender is one thing, but you're taking two people together that come from two different upbringings. And so you're bringing these traditions versus these traditions, and you're going to meld. This is why so often blended families really have a rough go.
Oh, blended families are a different animal. I'm in one.
Yeah.
Different animal altogether.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. But first go around, okay, you're bringing two sets of traditions and values together.
Yeah, this is what hit me. Number one, God brought two genders together, have nothing in common.
Okay.
Other than maybe their faith and everything.
Okay.
Then he brings two people together. More than that, because we have children involved too, and grandparents, and
right.
we're all from different family cultures.
Right.
Then he brings two people together who are raised entirely differently.
Yeah.
Then he brings two personalities together.
Yeah, the green, blues, and the reds.
that are almost always polar opposite. Very few are the same, very few. Okay. Polar opposite. And so that's what's jogged my mind, like, Lord, what are you after? You're giving us three different settings or opportunities in life that are not natural for us to even understand.
Yeah.
And then you tell us, go do it.
Yeah.
And so...
blend and multiply.
Blend and multiply. And so here's my thought about it. I think the Lord purposely has done this in all of our lives so we will learn how to sacrificially love and understand the people he brought in our life. Love and understand them. 1 Peter 3:7, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. King James says, according to knowledge. So what the word's saying when a man marries a woman is one of your first goals the rest of your life is to know her and study her and understand her heart. That's not natural for us as men.
Okay. Let me take an unnatural break right here because it's a perfect time to regroup. Teamworks-works.com is Bill's website. And check it out. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Life has many challenges. When you need answers, theDove.us is here with encouragement, videos, news, and information to restore, renew, and point you to what matters most. Turn to theDove.us, encouraging and informative.
Washington Watch with Tony Perkins. Every weeknight covering current events, issues of faith, family, and freedom. Tony is president of the FRC and your leading source for what's really happening in our nation's capital. Weeknights on the Dove TV.
He said, well, your son has been in a plane crash, and I'm here to take you to him.
It was terrifying because his head was swollen, his eyes were purple and swollen. It was just surreal.
It was very shocking to see him like that. He was almost unrecognizable, just a horrific scene.
I called a friend of mine and I told her, I just need you to get people together and start praying.
Watch the 700 Club Wednesday morning at 11 on the Dove TV.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
Jesus put it this way in John 5. He's talking to the Jews. John 5:39. He said, you search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life. And these are they which testify of me. But you are not willing to come to me that you may have life. Do not think that I shall accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, in whom you trust. For if you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote about me. Jesus said, the law of Moses, it's all about me. Moses wrote about me. The law points to me. The purpose of the law was to bring people to Christ.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
All right, welcome back. Bill Gallagher's in the house, founder of Teamworks. Teamworks-works.com is the website. We're talking about why does God literally bring opposites together, not only in gender, but in personalities, in personhood, in upbringing, and everything else. Before we get too far off here, I want to talk about, just briefly, what advice can you give couples that have come together or are going to come together, and they're coming from family cultures that are entirely different from one another? I mean, I look at Peggy and I's backgrounds and cultures, totally different.
Yeah,
Totally
okay.
different,
So I think
you know.
the first thing to do is to get really realistic and say different doesn't necessarily mean wrong.
No.
It just means different.
It just means different. But
I mean, it can be wrong. They can come from a real whacked out culture, but generally different doesn't mean wrong.
So what advice would you give them so that one family culture doesn't dominate the other? Are they willing to let those two go and create their own?
Yeah, that's a really good thing. I actually work with couples in year 3, 4, 5. Now they have little kids coming, a lot of them, and they want to create their own traditions.
Mm-hmm.
But if they come from families that have been hardcore, no, this is the way of our family, and for centuries, for decades.
Right.
Well, that's nice, but now we have our own family, and we want to create our own way and tradition with our kids.
Right.
And I think gracious parents understand that and support it. Controlling parents would not have any of it. And you're not going to score any points with your kids either, by the way. That happens.
Yeah. I always advise couples. It never really happens, but I do give. So I'm going to give you some advice that you're going to blow off. Okay.
Yes.
So I usually use it I don't do it anymore, so don't call me. I can't handle the pressure of it.
I think they need to find a middle ground between both their sets of parents.
Okay, so
a middle ground.
At the end of the pre-marriage counseling, I tell them this: if you really want your marriage to have a great start and a lasting relationship, move. Move.
Okay. That's not a bad idea.
Move away from your parents.
Yeah.
Get out of town.
Uh-huh. And then, to add to that.
Now, some of them blow it off and they laugh, but you stop and think about it. And I realize this is when you have two families that are very strong in their traditions and they want you to be the next generation of their traditions, that pressure is unnecessary on a young couple trying to start out.
Yes.
And so move to another state and start over or start fresh. Or
I think that we need to kind of, how is it that we can write off our families?
You can't.
Our spouse's entire life up to her meeting her. How can we do that?
It's tough.
It's pretty selfish, actually, if you want me to really go to the heart of the matter. Now, if the other family, the family that your spouse came from is abusive and ex-convicts and they're not repentant, that's a different story. But why is all of a sudden our family the family and we don't give the same courtesy? So you got to find a common ground, start your own family tradition.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not adamant, but I throw it on the table as consideration because I really think that looking past, it's really tough to live in the environment when you're under so much pressure.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is rock the boat.
Right.
And I tell you the ones who suffer. Your children.
That's right. And I guarantee you, if your family is front and center, and I'm not, I mean, maybe they're a wonderful family and, the other one's not available, whatever, but if your family's front and center and your spouse's family is hardly contacted or visited with, or I'm telling you, your children are eventually going to say, how come we never see grandma and grandpa on dad's side or mom's side?
Yeah.
How come we don't do that? What's your answer going to be? So, I think it's finding the common ground. Mm-hmm. It's balance. It's grace. It's grace and it's love to. I heard a person on the radio off the Dove one time. He was a counselor, and he said, "Never say to your spouse that what they are saying doesn't matter or is not important." And he said, I'll never forget it, and I share this with couples all the time. He said, never say that to your spouse. What matters is the person that's doing the talking, and that's your spouse, and it matters. So somehow we have to get out of our own head and find a balance. That's upbringings and stuff like that. So you've got the gender differences. The Bible's very clear on what to do there. As men, we're to sacrificially love our wives. And wives are to support and respect their husbands. And by the way, that's not optional. It's a command.
It is, and that word sacrificial, I think, is misunderstood because it's explained that you are to sacrifice for your wife the same way Christ sacrificed for the church and gave his life for it.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't require that of the woman, but does require that of the man.
Yeah.
So are you willing to lay down your life for your wife? And I'm not talking necessarily a protective standpoint. I mean really from the standpoint of, are you willing to give up your career?
Yeah.
Your ambitions, your whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
it's easier said than done, don't get me wrong.
Well, Timothy says that a husband that does not know how to manage his household, which puts priority on the marriage, not the job or the ministry. Early in my marriage, my first marriage, I learned the hard way, the ministry was my mistress.
Yeah.
I know a lot of pastors that do that.
Well, it's common in today's world. You know?
Yeah, but now we're told as men who are going into the ministry, I mean, we're talking about pastors now. If you can't manage your own household, you will never be able to manage the church of God. So in other words, get your family and your marriage in order, then maybe you can lead a church.
Yeah,
and I would say that over any job almost.
I've counseled several churches through pastoral changes in my days gone by. I don't know why I get sucked into these things, but I do.
Yeah.
And I tell them, fine, interview the candidate, but the next interview has to be the spouse.
No doubt.
I want you to interview the spouse the same way you interview the candidate, and then interview them both together.
Yeah.
But you need to interview them both separately.
Yeah.
You don't do that today.
No, not at all.
You always go for the...
And then, of course, there's the personality. So, I mean, we're talking about heavy subjects.
Oh, like you're a big red married to a blue.
Yeah, we have 4 different personalities we talk about around the Dove here, and I use colors. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I use the cultural one. So you're a high yellow.
High yellow.
And you are a very
extrovert.
Low blue.
Yeah, that's because that's what my wife is. What do you know?
No, you're a low green. You're a low green.
Yeah, well,
and she's a high blue?
I'm opposite from my wife. She's organized, I'm unorganized.
Okay.
She's introvert, I'm extrovert.
No.
I mean, we couldn't be any more opposite, and we adore each other. But there's, blood and scars in our life everywhere. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
Okay.
So, but then there's the personality thing.
Yeah.
So I think in all of this, Perry, we need to get out of our own head and find out, why has the Lord put certain people in our life? Why do we have a child?
You got a minute to answer that question.
Okay.
Why does God do this?
To teach us the love of Christ, to teach us to get out of our own selfish way, to teach us how to give like Jesus does. I mean, just look at him in the Gospels and see the people he reached out to. He is our example. He's our example. But it's not an accident that you had the parents you had, folks. It's not the accident. It's not an accident that you have this little child that you have that is running around tearing everything apart and will never listen to you. Those are not accidents. Those are opportunities for God to shape our life.
Okay. Well, as you can tell, we just scratched the surface on this. We probably have to do round 2.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Go to teamworks-works.com. That's how you connect with Bill. And the other area that the Lord's really using him in is working with staffs, whether it's ministry or professional staffs. Give them a call, have them come in, analyze, help, and organize. Teamworks-works.com. Thanks, buddy.
Yep, thanks, bud.
Combining your home and auto insurance could save you time and money. And who doesn't like that? Want surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life? Now's the time to call State Farm agent Rory Wold in Medford.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Looking for the perfect RV adventure?
Team Toner's got you covered from homes to homes on wheels.
Discover unbeatable deals only at American RV in Southern Oregon.